Chapter 695. In order to protect these two people, offending the Supreme Sect will only cause the Supreme Sect to fight with them. The people of the Supreme Sect have high cultivation, and it is difficult for me to deal with them, so more people will die because of this. How can this be? So, you mean to say that you want to sacrifice my father and mother to protect the people who have been cleared out? Suyin asked. It's not a sacrifice, it's a responsibility. This matter was caused by Su Shintian and Shun Shueshua. It's only right for them to stand up and take responsibility. How can it be called a sacrifice? Venerable Emptiness said indifferently. Then why is it that my sister, as the person who has been cleared out, is trapped in the Supreme Sect? Why did you not save her and not take responsibility? Su Yin asked again. When Venerable Emptiness heard this, he fell silent for a moment. My sister's matter has nothing to do with you, so you naturally have nothing to do with it. But now my father and mother have provoked the Supreme Sect in order to save my sister, and you guys are in such a hurry to distance yourselves. So this is emptying? Su Yin sneered. Venerable One Emptiness frowned. Audacious brat, how dare you speak rudely here? Do you really think that I'm afraid of you? Guzai shouted. I know you are not afraid of me, but I, Su Yun, am not afraid of you. Su Yun said coldly, and with that, he raised the death sword in his hand. This sword is very powerful. But, young man, don't you think that you've been underestimating us? Venerable Emptiness said indifferently. I have at least two ways to deal with the sword in your hand. Although it's a bit risky, it doesn't mean that I can't do anything to you. Since that's the case, then please give it a try. If you can ensure that it's completely empty, then I, Su Yun, will lose. Su Yun said. He naturally knew that these were just words used by the Venerable One to scare people. After all, this was the Sword Ancestor's protective sword chi. Its power was extraordinary. If it wasn't for the protection of the Sword Ancestor's protective sword chi, the Sword Ancestor would have died long ago. He really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Master, there's no need to say anything more. I'll use the dust sealing forbidden technique to seal him. I'll definitely be able to completely seal him before he can activate that power. Just then, one of the 5 saint techniques by the side said coldly. As he spoke, a burst of spirit chi shot out from his body, causing Su Yun's entire body to tremble, making it difficult for him to stand. Don't mess around. This power isn't something that your forbidden technique can seal. Activating it doesn't require too much profound energy. So if you haven't sealed him off and he activates that power, then the result will only be mutual destruction, and it will be unstoppable. Venerable Emptiness said solemnly. Master, what do you mean? You don't have to do anything. I'll deal with it. His dignified eyes suddenly became gentle, and his pupils inadvertently flickered a few times, like 2 flashing lights. Are you called Su Yin? Very good. You are a very brave person. If a person like you could join us, I would be very happy. Su Yin, regarding the matter between your parents and the Supreme Sect, I think it will be better for us not to make such a big fuss. Anything can be discussed. Put down the sword in your hand, and we can talk calmly, okay? As soon as he said that, he felt a strange energy mixed within the voice of the Venerable Lord, which quickly drilled into Su Yun's ears and into his brain. Hearing that, Su Yun felt that for some reason, his nervous and serious heart was actually excited. All of his nervousness had disappeared, and all of his vigilance had been lowered. It was as if he had heard the assurance of the Emptiness Realm expert, as if he already knew that his parents were out of danger. All of his hostility had disappeared, and the anger in his mind had completely retreated. His eyes became blurry as he looked at the Emptiness Realm expert, and his hands gradually became powerless. Venerable Lord Qin Kong gently extended his hand out and said gently, Su Yun, I do not want to be enemies with you, and I do not want to make things difficult for your parents. Stop. Let's have a good talk. I will satisfy everything you want, and any conditions you raise, we will also agree to it. Stop. Stop. This voice seemed to be filled with a devilish nature, making it impossible for people to stop when they heard it. All right, Su Yin almost mechanically said this word. Su Shantian and Shun Shueshue, who were behind him, immediately sensed that something was wrong. Shun Shueshue anxiously looked at his son's face, only to discover that his eyes were empty, as if he had been struck by some profound technique that had lost his mind. Yinner, what's wrong with you? Shun Shueshue shouted. But it was useless. Venerable Lord Emptiness raised his hand and waved it slightly. Guzazai and the others understood and immediately rushed forward to control Su Shintian and Shun Shueshue. As for Guzazai himself, he personally rushed towards Su Yun, wanting to snatch the death sword in his hands. Don't act recklessly, Venerable Lord Emptiness immediately shouted in a low voice. He was just struck by my illusion technique. His cultivation is not high, so the illusion technique is very effective against him. However, his mind is surprisingly resolute, and he is not trapped in the illusion. If you touch him, he will immediately wake up. Then I'll just kill him. Guzazai's face revealed a vicious expression as he took out a sharp sword and shouted, "You can't do it." Why? This Su Yun is very cunning. He has actually been activating a defensive magic treasure. His goal is to guard against my kind of silent, profound technique attack. Look at his left hand. Hearing that, Guzazai immediately looked towards Su Yun's left hand, only to see that Su Yun was holding onto a flag. The flag was trembling nonstop, as if it had been activated. If you can't kill him in one strike, he will definitely wake up. At that time, the problem will be even more serious. But if we don't remove this sword, we still won't be able to subdue this person. We will still be in a passive state. Guzazai said anxiously. How could that be? Venerable Emptiness said indifferently. Isn't he a filial son? Su Shantian and Shun Shueshue are both in our hands. Are you afraid that we won't be able to subdue him? After saying that, Venerable Lord Emptiness suddenly waved his hand. With a crashing sound, it was as if a gust of wind had swept through the entire place. Su Yun's entire body trembled, and he woke up from the illusion technique. He opened his eyes wide, tightly holding onto the sword in his hand. He looked forward, only to see that the Venerable Lord Emptiness was looking at him indifferently. The surrounding hostility was extremely strong. He anxiously looked around, only to see that Su Shantan and Shun Shueshue who were behind him had disappeared. When he looked again, they had already been controlled by Hong Zizai and the others. Illusion technique, Su Yun muttered, and instantly understood what was going on. Su Yun, look, I can silently control you, and silently capture Su Shintian and Shun Shueshue from your hands. Do you really think that I can't do anything to you? If I wanted to kill you, it would be as easy as flipping my hand, but since you are the successor of the limitless sword ancestor, I will let you go, and if you leave now, do not cause trouble again. I will be magnanimous, and will not pursue your rudeness this time. Venerable Emptiness said indifferently. Hearing that, Su Yun's face immediately turned sinister. He held onto the death sword and the 7th-tier imperial equipment in his hands tightly, his eyes bloodshot. You won't kill me? Do you think I'm an idiot? If you could kill me, you would have done so long ago. Why would you keep me alive? How could a person who didn't even care about the life and death of his own people care about the life and death of outsiders? Emptiness Realm Expert, if you do not hand over my parents today, I will definitely perish together with you. Don't give me any more reasons, and don't give me any more excuses. I don't care about any of this. He raised his hand. The death sword slanted towards the sky, and the profound strength in his body automatically surged towards the sword body of the death sword. I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it. 1. Hand over my parents, and all of you return to the mainland. 2. We will all perish together, empty the world, and accompany me in death. He did not dare to delay any longer, nor did he dare to hesitate any longer. If he did not have the determination to die, not only would he not be able to save his parents, he would also die here. Right now, if he didn't use some forceful methods, it would be difficult to deal with these people. Hearing this, Venerable Lord Emptiness's face changed. Su Yun, are you threatening me? So what if I am? Su Yun said coldly. I am just a small fry. My death is not enough. To have a person like you accompany me in death, I am happy for you. How dare you? Venerable Lord Emptiness was completely infuriated by Su Yun's arrogance. He growled, "Do you really think I can't deal with you? Don't force me." With that, he was about to make his move, as though he was planning to use some profound technique to deal with Su Yun. However, just as the situation was becoming more and more tense and intense, a multicolored and brilliant light suddenly exploded in the sky. A clear and melodious sound rang out, causing the people below to raise their heads and look up. Everyone looked up at the sky. A tiny crack appeared in the sky. It was like an eye slit. However, the crack was like a pair of eyes that had opened, slowly expanding and growing larger. At the place where the sky had split open, there was an incomparably large whirlpool made of light. Upon closer inspection, one could see a large number of human figures floating within the whirlpool. These human figures were like falling raindrops, smashing straight down. Emptiness Sovereign, you are becoming more and more capable. You even dare to touch my people. Do you still have me in your eyes? An explosive shout came out, like thunder breaking through the sky, shaking everyone in the emptiness realm to the point that they were on the verge of collapsing. Su Shintian and Shun Shueshue's faces changed drastically. Shun Shueshua looked at the sky anxiously and muttered, "Father." With his hands behind his back, he looked at the figure that was descending from the sky and said solemnly, "What kind of wind blew the martial monarch here? My empty little world cannot accommodate a great god like you. If you can't tolerate it, you can insult it as you please. You can ignore this old man's existence just because you can't tolerate it." The voice came again, but it was filled with questions. His voice was like a thunderclap as it descended. Venerable Lord Emptiness's expression became even uglier. Chapter 696. When the light dissipated, they saw warriors dressed in gold and silver armor, holding sharp swords, pointing them at the necks of every single disciple on the scene, subduing most of them in an instant. In front of the Venerable One appeared an old man dressed in 7-colored armor and a golden cloak. The old man had white hair and a white beard, but he was very majestic. He was close to 2 meters tall, and his face was square. His eyebrows formed a line, and he looked very domineering. He stood there like a god of war, standing in front of everyone. No one dared to look at him directly, and they couldn't help but have a strange feeling of worship in their hearts. He also had an indescribable aura. Everyone around him felt ashamed of their inferiority. No one dared to go against him, not even daring to disobey his will. Who is this? Su Yun was suspicious, but his vigilance did not decrease. Previously, he had been careless and was hit by the Venerable One's technique, but now he could not be careless. Most of the spirit cultivator-s in the surroundings were stronger than him. If he was careless, he would definitely lose his life. The old man in the 7-colored armor turned his face and shouted at the elite who was holding onto Shun Shueshua, "Let her go." The elite was shocked. He stared blankly at the old man's dignified face. His entire body could not help but tremble. The hand that was holding on to Shun Shueshua also involuntarily loosened. He didn't even know why he let go. Afraid? No, it was a feeling that was even stranger than fear. It was as if his body was involuntarily listening to his orders. Shun Shueshua was freed, but she immediately ran towards Su Shintian. Seeing that this person had arrived, the people who had cleared the area did not dare to make things difficult for the two of them. Su Shintian was also released, and Shun Shueshua immediately pulled Su Shintian and ran towards the old man. Could this be a friend of his parents? Seeing that, Su Yun was startled for a moment, and then he was overjoyed. However, Su Shintian's expression was extremely ugly. Not only him, even Shun Shueshua's expression was extremely strange. She did not dare to look at the old man, and after she ran over, she lowered her head and did not say a word. The old man looked at Shun Shueshua. A cold snort came out from his nose, and then shouted at the venerable emptiness realm expert. "I've already heard about this matter. This matter has nothing to do with my daughter. This is all your own fault. Therefore, the matters of the Supreme Sect should be left to you all to take care of." Martial Emperor, what are you talking about? Venerable Lord Emptiness said indifferently. My sect's elders want to go to the Supreme Sect to ask for someone, and the person they want is your granddaughter, Sululuo. Now that things have gotten out of hand, are you going to push all the responsibility onto us? Don't you think you're going too far? At this point, Venerable Emptiness's indifferent eyes burst forth with a strange sharpness, causing one's bones to tremble. However, the old man was not afraid at all. Instead, he looked back at the Emptiness Realm expert with an even more domineering and resolute gaze. At the same time, he said in a low voice, "Yes, so what?" Venerable Lord Emptiness focused his eyes. I came here this time only to save my daughter. I don't care about anyone else. Granddaughter? I have never had a granddaughter. You have to be clear about this. With that, the old man turned his head and stared coldly at Shan Shueshue, who was beside him. Father. Shan Shueshue lowered his head and called out, "You're still willing to recognize me as your father?" The Martial Emperor coldly snorted. Shan Shueshue did not speak. This son-in-law greets father-in-law. Su Shintian cupped his fists and bowed, but his movements were rather stiff. However, the Martial Emperor did not even look at him and said in a deep voice, "Scram." Su Shintian's face changed, but he did not say anything. Seeing that, Su Yun's heart, which was originally filled with joy, immediately turned cold. This person was his mother's father? That was his grandfather? But from the looks of it, he seemed to be extremely angry, and his attitude toward his father was very unfriendly. Su Yun was extremely suspicious, but this was a matter between elders, so it was not convenient for him to ask, but he still had to do some etiquette. Immediately, Su Yun kept his death sword and walked over, bowing respectfully to the old man. Grandson greets grandfather. Grandfather? The Martial Emperor turned his head. His domineering and majestic eyes swept across Su Yun, and then asked, "Who are you?" Su Yun was startled, and said, "My mother is Shan Shueshue. She's your daughter. I am naturally your grandson. When did my daughter give birth to a son?" The Martial Emperor snorted. Shan Shueshue, who was at the side, opened her mouth, as if she wanted to say something, but when the words reached her mouth, she forcefully swallowed them back. Su Yun frowned, but quickly felt relieved. Previously, the Martial Emperor was not even willing to admit his sister, so how could he admit himself? He cupped his fists and retreated. He walked to Shan Shueshue's side and asked in a low voice, "Mother, what exactly is going on? Why does grandfather seem to be very angry?" It's a long story. Shan Shueshue sighed, and a bit of bitterness appeared on her face. Actually, you can't blame your grandfather for this, because mother secretly ran away from home for your father. Your grandfather has always been brooding over this matter, and he even hates your father, so he did this. Hearing that, Su Yun understood a little. Although Shan Shueshue did not explain in detail, just this alone had already made the doubts in his heart lessen a little. No wonder the Martial Emperor was unwilling to admit that Su Luo and Su Yun were his grandchildren. So it was because his father had abducted someone else's daughter. No wonder the Martial Emperor was angry. "Let me ask you, are you willing to go back with me?" Just then, the Martial Emperor had his hands behind his back, facing Shan Shueshue, and shouted in a serious tone. Hearing that, Shan Shueshue pursed her lips. She was not in a hurry to reply, but instead grabbed Su Shintian's hand and said softly, "If father is willing to bring Shintian back, I will go back." "What do you think this is? You actually want to bargain with me?" Anger surfaced on the Martial Emperor's face. "What's more, I have already given you a huge gift by not killing this person, and now you still hope that I can save him? Don't even think about it. Don't say any more. Quickly come back with me." With that, he extended his hand and was about to forcefully bring Shan Shueshue away. However, Shan Shueshue resisted with all his might and shouted hysterically, "Father, if you want to forcefully separate me from Shintian, I would rather immediately destroy my own body and soul. Completely die." With that said, the profound chi in Shan Shueshue's body immediately activated, filling every part of his body and showing a sign that it was about to break out of his body. Seeing that, Su Shintian and Su Yun turned pale with fright and anxiously went forward to stop Shun Shueshue. The martial emperor was even more furious. He stomped his feet again and again, causing the entire sky to sway as if there was an earthquake. When the martial emperor was enraged, the sky and earth changed color. The sun and moon lost their light, and the spirit energy in the air seemed to be affected by the fluctuation, shaking incessantly, and all the living beings in the entire realm trembled in fear from the anger. Other than Guzazai and the others, the rest of the people present were already trembling. Feeling the anger of the martial emperor, Su Yun felt his heart tremble. What kind of powerful existence was this? No wonder he dared to ignore the emptiness realm expert and even humiliate him in front of his face. This kind of sage was like a god, and mortals could not look up to him. Su Shintian's face was pale, his breathing was hurried, but he and Shun Shueshue's hands were tightly clenched together. No matter how strong the martial monarch's aura was, no matter how violently Su Shintian's body trembled, he still clenched his teeth and refused to kneel down. Father, if you want me to leave, you must bring Shun Tian with you. The weak are not worthy of traveling with me. I'm also very weak. Why do you care about my life and death? Shun Shueshue cried. You are my daughter. If I want you to become stronger, it will be as easy as flipping my hand. Since that's the case, why aren't you willing to accept Shintian? His talent is higher than mine. Isn't it easier for you to make him stronger? How can I, the martial monarch, easily pass on this cultivation technique to an outsider? He has already humiliated me time and time again. I only did not kill him because of you. If you continue to bargain like this, I will kill him on the spot. The martial monarch had already roared out, completely ignoring the people around him. If you want to kill me, then kill me as well. In any case, as long as something happens to Shintian, I will not live alone. Shun Shueshue said resolutely. Her tears had already drenched her face. Snow. Su Shintian held her hand tightly. At this moment, the heart of this tough man couldn't help but melt. Seeing that, the martial monarch's brain was already burning with anger. He could not hold it in at all. He raised his hand and was about to kill Su Shintian. But at this moment, the people beside him suddenly cried out. My emperor, the princess has a stubborn personality. If we use brute force, she will definitely not obey. Let's bring Su Shintian and the princess back to the palace first and slowly deal with them. Hearing that, the martial monarch glared at that person angrily, causing that person's face to turn pale and his entire body to tremble. He raised his hand high up in the air. The profound strength in his hand surged, causing the air to tremble like a wave. It was extremely terrifying, but in the end he did not strike down, and the profound strength in his hand also gradually dissipated. He nodded his head, snorted, and said, You're right. I'm in a hurry to kill him. It's too easy for him. With that, he waved his hand, and two people stepped forward, one on the left and one on the right, escorting Shun Shueshue and Su Shintian. Take them away. Yes, sir. Wait. At this moment, Venerable Emptiness spoke out. He said in a deep voice, Martial Monarch, what do you mean by this? Have you asked for my opinion before taking my disciple away from here? What's the difference between asking and not asking? Do you still dare to object? The martial monarch tyrannically stared at the emptiness realm expert and spoke arrogantly. A thick killing intent flashed through the eyes of the emptiness realm expert, but he did not dare to refute. Let's go. The martial monarch waved his hand. Father and Yunner, please take Yunner away as well. Shun Shueshue said again. An outsider. Why do you care about him? In short, I will never acknowledge him. The martial monarch bellowed. He could no longer listen to Shun Shueshue's pleas. He immediately waved his hand, leading the people around him into the sky, into the crack in the sky, and disappeared in an instant. Seeing that, Su Yun's heart was filled with mixed feelings. His parents had been saved by his grandfather, so they were most likely fine. It was just that they did not bring him away, so he was more or less unhappy in his heart. Not to mention that the martial monarch was unwilling to admit him time and time again. Forget it. It was just a dispute between the elders. No matter what, he was at least willing to save his parents. That was enough. Su Yun heaved a sigh of relief. The boulder in his heart also relaxed, but he was not afraid that he was still in a state of emptiness. Chapter 697. The emptiness realm expert stared coldly at the crack in the sky that was gradually closing. He did not say a word, and his expression was extremely ugly. After a while, he turned into a beam of light and disappeared into the distance. Venerable One! Venerable One! Gu's eyes shouted a few times, but he had already left. Even the 5 Saint Arts did not stop and followed him. When everyone saw this, they remained silent. Although the emptiness realm expert came quickly and left quickly, the arrival of Shen Wu Huang made them understand that the emptiness realm expert had nowhere to vent his anger. This place was empty, but the martial king was extremely tyrannical, not giving him any face at all. He continued to do as he pleased, acting in an overbearing manner, and probably did not even have him, the emptiness realm expert, in his eyes. However, the emptiness realm expert did not dare to flare up. The emptiness realm expert was a person who was good at enduring. He was clear of the gap between the emptiness realm and the martial king. Elder Gu, what should we do with this person? Hong Zizai walked over, looked at Su Yun, and said softly, "He is Shun Xueshue's son, and is Shun Wu Huang's grandson. Do you dare to provoke him? Let him go." Gu Zizai shook his head, then said to Su Yun, "Brat, consider yourself lucky today. My sect's Venerable One will not pursue your rudeness and recklessness. You can leave on your own. Do not cause trouble here. If not, we will not let you off lightly." Su Yun laughed. He did not care about him, took out his sword, and flew away. If Shun Wu Huang did not come, and Su Yun did not have the death sword in his hands, he would have taken Su Yun down long ago. Once he took him down, it was unknown whether Su Yun was dead or alive. With Shun Wu Huang and the death sword as a barrier, the emptiness realm expert did not dare to make a move on Su Yun, so Su Yun swaggered out of the emptiness sect. The only regretful thing about this operation was that he did not manage to save the great clan elder, but Su Shentian and Shun Xueshua had already left, and just a single desire was not enough to quell the anger of the supreme sect. He believed that the emptiness sect would not foolishly think that a single desire could resolve the dispute with the supreme sect. But since it did not concern him, Su Yun would not pay attention to it. He was only curious about where his parents had gone. He didn't even know that his grandfather was still around, nor did he know that his grandfather was in existence with such a terrifying cultivation. Even the emptiness realm expert was afraid of him. Could it be that mother was not the miss of the Shin family? Dad shouldn't be a member of the Su family, right? Otherwise, how could Su Yun, a small aristocratic family from an ordinary human world, produce 2 such terrifying existences? With their cultivation, if placed in the sky martial continent, they would be able to sweep away all existences and proclaim themselves as kings. The so-called patriarch of the Su family and the profound sky sect were like flies in front of them, without any threat. The doubts in Su Yun's mind were like a layer of hazy fog, causing him to be extremely confused. Holding onto the death sword, his journey was unobstructed. There were a few elites following behind him, and after they left, all of them left. Su Yun flew to a forest and exhaled. He then took out the parchment that Octagon Aniseed had given him and planned to leave the empty realm according to the method given by the higher-ups. Crash! At this moment, a strange sound was heard. Then, a figure suddenly walked out of the golden forest. Who? Su Yun kept the parchment and bellowed with a serious face. The figure walked over quickly, approached Su Yun, knelt down on one knee, and shouted loudly, "Greetings, Lord Demon Lord." Hearing that, Su Yun looked over, only to see that it was a devil cultivator dressed in true devil sect clothes. "Who are you? Why are you here?" Su Yun asked. Reporting to Lord Demon Lord, Disciple Luo is a disciple of the devil sect's Inner Mountain. This time, I am here to receive Lord Demon Lord on the orders of the vice sect leader. The devil cultivator called Luo said. On the orders of Octagon Aniseed, you came here to pick me up? Su Yun's face revealed suspicion. Why would Octagon Aniseed send you to pick me up? Have you been waiting for me here? Reporting to Lord Demon Lord. This subordinate has been wandering around the periphery under the orders of the vice sect leader. Chi, the sect leader, has ordered that if you were to be killed by the person who cleared you out, he would immediately return to the True Devil sect and report this matter to the sect leader. If you are safe and sound and leave by yourself, I will immediately bring you back to the True Devil sect and take over the position of Demon Lord. The Devil Channel did not answer Su Yun's question, but instead told him the little information he knew. Su Yun frowned. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Bring me back to the True Devil sect immediately." "Yes, sir." The Devil Channel cupped his fists, then pulled out the pitch-black devil blade from his waist and slashed at the void. The void instantly split apart, and a black hole similar to the void fragmentation gate appeared. Chirp! The pitch-black black hole quickly disappeared, and the devil chi in the vicinity also dissipated completely in the blink of an eye. However, not long after, two figures slowly appeared in the distant void. The two of them seemed to have appeared out of thin air, and each of them held a piece of cloth that looked like a handkerchief in their hands. Shockingly, the cloth was a magic treasure that could turn invisible. Devil chi? Devil cultivator? Could this person be someone from the True Devil realm? Looking at that person's attire, he seems to be someone from the True Devil sect. Maybe this fellow who came to cause trouble is someone from the True Devil sect. Quick, let's go report to Elder Gu. And the two of them whispered to each other for a moment, then immediately turned and flew towards the sky. When he returned to the True Devil sect, he had been waiting for Su Yun in the Skull Pavilion. The Devil Channel led Su Yun outside the pavilion and directly left. Su Yun looked at the pavilion, took a deep breath, and shouted. Su Yun pays his respects to the eight-toothed sect leader. However, as the sound of his voice faded, he did not see the appearance of Octagon Aniseed. There was not even a sound. Su Yun thought for a while, then walked straight in. As expected, once he entered the pavilion. At this moment, his head was leaning against the left armrest of the chair. His short and thin legs were resting on the other armrest, and he was sleeping soundly with his face covered. How could an existence of the Spirit Emperor sleep all day? Su Yun could not understand it all. He went up and called out into Octagon Aniseed's ear, eight-toothed sect leader. However, Octagon Aniseed remained unmoved. He even moved his body and turned his head around. Su Yun frowned and raised his voice, eight-toothed sect leader. However, it was still useless. Su Yun was not a patient person. Seeing that Octagon Aniseed was sleeping soundly and was actually smacking his lips, he could not help but reach out his hand and pinch his nose, which was even more exquisite than a woman's. Unexpectedly, Octagon Aniseed still did not react. Instead, he opened his mouth to breathe and continued to sleep soundly. Eggy! Su Yun cursed in his heart. This guy was getting better and better at sleeping. He stared at the chair, and without caring too much, he went up and gave it a kick. Clang! The chair shook, and Octagon Aniseed's thin and weak body fell from the top. He fell to the ground and immediately woke up. Who? You actually dare to attack the vice sect leader of the True Devil sect. Do you want to die? Octagon Aniseed crawled up in a panic and looked around. His delicate and pretty face purposely put on a sinister look as he shouted loudly. However, no matter how ferocious his delicate and pretty face was, it wouldn't scare anyone. When he saw Su Yun standing in front of him, he was startled and said, "You are the Demon Lord?" "Heh, Demon Lord, why are you here?" Su Yun took a deep breath, suppressing the discomfort in his heart. He said snappily, "I just came back from emptying out. The magic channel said that you summoned me, so I came." "You're here so soon?" Octagon Aniseed rubbed his drowsy eyes and sat back down on the chair. He looked at Su Yun and laughed. Hee, clearing out a line. Did it go smoothly? Smooth. Su Yun nodded his head. Although there were some twists and turns in this trip, in the end, we still resolved the matter. However, my father and mother are currently in my grandfather's place. I wonder how they are doing. The Martial Emperor loves his daughter dearly, so he will definitely not make things difficult for your mother. However, it's hard to say for your father. Octagon Aniseed laughed. But with that said, Su Yun frowned. Eight-toothed sovereign. How did you know that my grandfather is a martial emperor? How did you know he was involved in this matter? Hearing that, his smile froze for a moment. Then he laughed out loud. Everyone knows that Shun Shui Shui's father is Shun Wu Huang. Furthermore, didn't you mention your grandfather? Huh, but I didn't say that he was involved in this matter. It's also possible that my mother and father went to seek refuge with my grandfather, isn't it? Octagon Aniseed was speechless. Then, he exhaled and said with a helpless look, "All right, I admit it. I wrote a letter asking your grandfather to empty the place and save them. So it was you who did it. I'm not worried about you. Emptying out is not a small sect. Your parents have committed such a crime, and with the personality of the Venerable One, it would definitely be better to have less trouble. If you want to sacrifice your father and mother, it would be a fantasy for you to go there alone and save them. So I informed Shun Wu Huang of this matter. If he knew about this, he would definitely not stand by and watch." Octagon Aniseed said. Hearing that, Su Yun was silent for a moment, then sighed, sat on the chair and nodded. "What you said is right, and what you did is right. Eight-toothed sovereign this time. Thank you very much." He smiled gently and walked over. "There's no need to thank me. You're already a member of the Devil Sect, so the people of the Devil Sect should help each other, right?" With that, he took out a pitch-black bone mask from his bosom and handed it over to Su Yun. When Su Yun saw the bone mask, his face revealed a look of surprise. The people of the Devil Sect are never afraid of trouble, nor are they afraid of being implicated. You should never fight alone, understand? Octagon Aniseed said seriously. Su Yun stared blankly at the bone mask, unable to speak for a long time. After an unknown period of time, he finally extended his hand and carefully received the bone mask. "Sovereign, thank you. Didn't you just thank me? Why are you thanking me again? Is your thanks so cheap? It's just moving your lips. It doesn't cost you anything." All right. Can I ask you a question? Speak. Why do you sleep all day? Is my hobby okay? Hobby? It's too weird. What is it? Can't I? Yes, but it's quite similar to the hobby of a certain animal. What animal? Pig. You. Su Yun. Stop right there. Chapter 698. Empty the inner world. After clearing out the Holy Spirit in the center of the hall, men and women wearing white clothes with golden patterns were walking towards the hall step by step. These people were all expressionless as they looked forward. If it wasn't for the fact that they were still alive and walking, others would have thought that they were just a group of dead people. However, when these people walked into the palace, the atmosphere in the palace instantly became extremely oppressive. Gu Zizai, Hong Zizai, and the other elders and higher-ups in the palace all focused their gazes on the people from the Supreme Sect. The disciples guarding the palace also stared at these people without blinking. Looking at them, everyone's hearts involuntarily started beating faster. These people came from the craziest sects in the myriad heavens realm. They had abandoned their feelings, abandoned their desires, and still lived, all for the sake of the illusory, supreme divine Tao that no one knew about. They were not afraid of life and death, nor were they afraid of any powerful and terrifying existences. In order to protect the supreme divine Tao, to protect their faith, they could charge towards death wave after wave and attack the strongest existence in the world with a single order from the sect leader. No one could understand what the people of the Supreme Sect were thinking. Those who understood had long since entered the Tao. No one could see through this sect, nor did they understand the true meaning of its existence. The Supreme Sect had existed for so long, but the supreme divine Tao that they had passed down through their mouths had always been an illusory thing. However, there was one thing that he had to admit, and that was that the limitless profound chi that the people of the Supreme Sect used could indeed be said to be the most exquisite of the thousands of profound chi. The strength of the Supreme Sect was unquestionable, and because all of its disciples were loyal to the sect, no one in the myriad heavens realm dared to casually provoke the Supreme Sect, even emptying it. Venerable Lord Emptiness was dressed in a luxurious robe as he sat at the top of the palace. His expression was extremely indifferent as he watched these people walk in. It was just that, after these people from the Supreme Sect entered the palace, They did not kneel or bow, nor did they sit. They stood in the center of the palace like statues and looked at the venerable emptiness realm expert. He didn't do any etiquette. Guzazai and the others looked at each other in dismay, not understanding the reason. Venerable Lord Emptiness frowned and then slowly spoke. Fellow Taoists of the Supreme Sect have crossed over from afar, causing me to be extremely touched. Please take a seat, and then we can discuss the following matters in detail. Venerable Emptiness said indifferently, Venerable Sir, there's no need to waste any more time. After we're done with this, we'll return to the sect quickly and cultivate the path of godhood. The leader, a skinny man, spoke. These words were simply slapping his face in front of everyone. The surrounding people were all enraged. Wu Xinzi, what do you mean by this? What? Don't you want to talk to us? If you don't want to, then please leave quickly so as not to waste everyone's time. Hong Zizai stood up and shouted angrily. However, just as Hong Zizai finished speaking, the Supreme Sect people led by Wu Xinzi did not say a word and directly turned to leave. He came and left in a straightforward manner, without the slightest bit of hesitation. Hong Zizai was stunned. They didn't give him any face at all. The Emptiness Realm expert's face had long since become extremely long, and the anger in his eyes became even more intense. It was one thing for Shan Wu Huang to humiliate him previously, but now, a small disciple of the Supreme Sect also dared to look down on him. How could he endure it? Everyone, please wait. Gu's eyes sensed that something was wrong and immediately stood up. The people of Supreme Sect all stopped in their tracks. Elder Gu, if they want to leave, then let them go. Why do you care about them? Hong Zizai said in a low voice. Don't say another word. Gu Zizai gave Hong Zizai a meaningful glance, then called out, Everyone from Supreme Sect, please wait, please wait. I have invited all of you here today to settle some small conflicts between our two sects and will not take up too much of your time. Since all of you are already here, why can't you be patient and listen to what I have to say? If everyone were to leave just like that, wouldn't it be a waste of your time? Since that's the case, please make it short. Wu Xinzi turned around and said expressionlessly, The great clan elder wants to come to my Supreme Sect in the next few days to cause trouble. Not only did he kill hundreds of my Supreme Sect disciples, he even humiliated my divine Tao Holy Maiden and wanted to harm her. This matter has already been found out by the sect leader, and the sect leader is furious. If the person who is cleared out cannot give us an answer, we will personally seek justice from all of you. The Holy Maiden is the benchmark of my Supreme Divine Tao. Insulting her is insulting my Supreme Divine Tao, and we cannot let her off lightly. When Hong Zizai heard this, he immediately became angry. He stood up and shouted, Don't go too far. However, before he could finish his words, he was glared at by the Emptiness Realm expert. Elder Hong, don't be impudent. Hong Zizai's body trembled. Seeing the venerable Emptiness Realm expert's cold face, he immediately cupped his fists and sat down, not daring to say another word. Gu Zizai ignored Hong Zizai and continued. Everyone, the master of my sect, already knows about the ins and outs of this matter. We are also very shocked about this matter, because whether it is empty or Supreme Sect, we are all peace-loving. We will not easily start a war with any other sect, and what I am searching for is the supreme path of eternal life. Fighting and killing is just something that mortals should do. No matter how perfect a sect is, there will still be some people who will ruin the sect's reputation. This time, it was all because the former great elder of my sect wanted to act willfully. When he committed such a crime, he kept us in the dark, and we did not know about it. So you want to say that this matter has nothing to do with emptying out and let us find freedom, right? Wu Xinzi said indifferently. Since that's the case, please hand over the disciples under you to us, bring them back to the sect, and deal with them according to the rules of my Supreme Sect. I'm afraid I can't do it. Elder Gu shook his head. Lord Wu Xinzi might not know, but a few days ago, someone snuck into my place to empty it out, wanting to save these criminals. This person has a huge background. We do not dare to offend him. Hearing that, Wu Xinzi asked indifferently, Who? It's someone from the True Devil sect. Gu Zizai said softly. What is it? Could this be related to the True Devil sect? Elder Zazai's disciple is related to a person called Su Yun from the True Devil sect. This person is very powerful. With a demon sword in his hand, he snuck into my place and saved me. So, if everyone from the Supreme sect wants to come here to ask for him, I'm afraid you won't be able to. If you need him, you'll have to go to the True Devil sect. Gu Zizai said. With that said, Hong Zizai, who was at the side, finally understood Gu Zizai's intentions. He was completely prepared to push all the blame onto the True Devil sect, who had nothing to do with this matter. Shenwu Huang did not dare to provoke him. If he were to push all the blame onto Shenwu Huang, with Shenwu Huang's personality, he would definitely be furious and would do everything he could to settle the score with him. But the True Devil sect was different. This sect had always kept a low profile. Although its strength was not ordinary, it was not afraid of being emptied. Compared to the Supreme sect, they would rather be enemies with the True Devil sect and would rather pour the water of disaster onto them. Is that so? Wu Xinzi fell into deep thought. Gu Zizai quietly watched from the side, quietly waiting for Wu Xinzi's reply. After an unknown period of time, Wu Xinzi raised his head and said indifferently, I hope what you said is true. With that said, the group of Supreme sect people walked out of the door. Gu Zizai turned his head and revealed a strange smile towards Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert. Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert nodded without saying a word. Right. Just as Wu Xinzi was about to walk out of the palace, he suddenly turned around and said, You only said that Su Yun saved the disciple who wants to be at ease, but you did not say where he is. May I ask where he is now? This. Gu Zizai was in a difficult position. Seeing that, Wu Xinzi looked at Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert and said, If you wish for Elder Zizai to be here, please hand him over first. Otherwise, we will not need to go to the True Devil sect. Lord Wu Xinzi, there is no need to be so anxious. Elder Gu, go and bring Elder Zizai here and hand him over to the Supreme sect. Without waiting for Gu Zizai to finish speaking, Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert suddenly spoke up and interrupted him. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire hall was shocked. Everyone's eyes were like the eyes of a cow as they looked at Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert. This was something that Gu Zizai and the others did not even dare to think about. Handing over a few disciples was fine, but handing over an elder was a completely different matter. Furthermore, this elder was the great elder who had been cleared out. If this matter were to spread out, what face would he have left? His reputation would definitely be ruined. At that time, no one would dare to come and clear out the world. Venerable One, this, Gu Zizai wanted to say something, but Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert waved his hand and said indifferently, It's just a sinner, what's there to care about? Quickly hand him over to the Supreme sect. Even if the Supreme sect does not punish him, I will definitely not forgive him. Now that there are Supreme sect people punishing him for me, why would I not be happy? Hurry up and bring someone over. When the crowd heard this, it was no longer convenient for them to refute. Gu Zizai sighed, nodded to the two disciples behind him, and then left. Not long after, a yellow-robed, white-bearded old man with a celestial demeanor was led over by two disciples. The old man looked around, as if it was his first time here. When he saw the person sitting above, he immediately knelt down. Greetings, Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert. Get up. Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert waved his hand. Thank you, Venerable One. He wanted to get up. Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert glanced at the puzzled expression on his face as he suspiciously sized up his surroundings. He then said to Wu Xinzi, He's here, you guys can take him away. Wu Xinzi nodded. He did not say anything. He only turned around and walked towards the door, while the Supreme Sect disciples behind him quickly took out their magic treasure-s and struck at him. Before he could even react, his chest suffered a heavy blow. He fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Following that, a black and white cage flew over and enveloped him. What are you doing? Let me out. He wanted to cry out as he turned his head and shouted at Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert. What crime have I committed? Why did you lock me up? He had no idea what was going on. He had lost his memories, and everything around him was extremely unfamiliar. He couldn't even tell who was good and who was bad. How sad and desolate was this? It's not that I want to lock you up, it's that the Supreme Sect wants to lock you up. You have already lost your memories, so there are many things you do not know. It's useless to tell you. Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert said indifferently. He then turned around and was about to leave the palace. However, at this moment, countless rainbows streaked across the sky, followed by a large number of figures rushing over. When his figure landed on the ground and the light dissipated, he saw hundreds of disciples standing outside the palace, blocking the path of Wuxinzi and the others. Chapter 699. The emptied people in the palace ran out one after another. Looking at the people who were flying over, they realized that they were all disciples who wanted to be at ease. They knelt down at the same time and shouted in unison, "Please show mercy to the emptied Venerable One. Please show mercy to the lords of the Supreme Sect and spare Master's death sentence. Forgive Master's death sentence. Master is the benchmark for me to clear. I can't lose him when I clear. Venerable One, please show mercy. Please forgive Master." The cries continued. The disciples' expressions were sincere. Some of them even cried out. People continuously kowtowed, their expressions pious and sorrowful, their pleading eyes staring at these people who were determined to live and die. The scene became chaotic. However, Wuxinzi and the others were still expressionless. They were not moved at all, as if they did not see these people at all. Pull them away. The few illusory words of the Venerable Emptiness Realm Expert came from the palace. Yes, sir. The elites in the hall stepped forward and pulled the disciples away one by one. Venerable One, please be merciful. Master is the great clan elder who has cleared out the great clan elder. All these years, he has done so much for us. I hope that the Venerable One will show mercy and not hand them over to the Supreme Sect. He must die. A disciple knelt down and climbed up, crying hysterically towards the hall. However, what greeted him was a cold snort and a palm wind. Bang! The disciple was struck in the chest and was sent flying. He fell onto a rock behind him and spat out a mouthful of blood. He then fainted, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. The rock also turned into fine powder in an instant. When the other disciples saw this, their expressions changed. As for the one in the cage, tears streamed down his face. I don't remember anything, but you call me Master, so you must be my disciple. I don't know what I've done wrong, but you don't have to do this anymore. Leave, all of you. I'm willing to take responsibility for everything I've done. His voice was hoarse, as if he was pleading. His words caused the disciples to wail and cry in grief. All of them. Pull them apart. Hong Zizai said somewhat powerlessly. The other disciples were a little hesitant, but due to the order, they had no choice but to follow. However, before these disciples could make a move, Wu Xinzi and the others made their move. They didn't care about the disciples in front of them at all. They rose into the air and flew into the sky as if there was no one in front of them, just air. They didn't care about them and just left like that. Everyone was stunned. But when he thought about it carefully, he understood. The people of Supreme Sect only had the Supreme Divine Tao in their hearts, and only the orders and missions given by the sect. They did not care about anything else, nor did they care about it. Master! The disciples who wanted to be at ease shouted hysterically. Elder Gu, what should we do now? Why would the Venerable One make such a decision? Hong Zizai walked over, looking at the Supreme Sect people that were gradually disappearing into the sky. He worriedly said to Gu Zizai, the thoughts of the Venerable One are not something that we can guess. Now that things have come to this, we can only do our own things and not think too much about other things. Gu Zizai shook his head and turned to leave. The sky was dark and overcast. The ice-cold world was like a corner that had been forgotten by the gods. However, this corner was a forbidden area for countless spirit cultivator in the myriad heavens realm. True Devil Realm. A terrifying place where strong demons ran rampant. Inside the True Devil Sect. What? You want to be emptied and handed over to the Supreme Sect? Su Yun, who had just come out of the quiet world, looked at the magic channel in front of him in shock and cried out involuntarily. Yes, Lord Demon Lord, the Supreme Sect's envoy has already arrived at the front of the sect, saying that he wants to see the sect leader. I wonder what their purpose for coming here is. Mo Luo said. Hearing that, Suyin started to think. Suyin was actually not too worried about being handed over to the Supreme Sect. He was not familiar with the Supreme Sect, so maybe the Supreme Sect would not directly kill him. Maybe he would advise him before killing him. If he really had lost his memories and not lost his mind, he would definitely choose to join the Supreme Sect to save his life. But if he joined the Supreme Sect, he would never be able to come out again. Sooner or later, he would die. We have nothing to do with the Supreme Sect. Why would they come to the true Devil Sect? Suyin said. Yeah, this subordinate also feels that it's strange. The magic channel was also confused. Suyin exhaled, shook his head, he was too lazy to think about it, and said, Come, let's go to the main hall to take a look. Yes, sir. The magic channel cupped his fists and followed Suyin along the small path towards the Earth Devil Hall. However, before the two of them could take a few steps, a devil cultivator walked towards them. When the devil cultivator saw Suyin, he quickened his pace, then knelt down on one knee and said, Greetings, Lord Demon Lord. Lord Demon Lord, the Vice Sect leader invites you. Please head to the Earth Devil Hall quickly. Suyin frowned. Got it. I'm going to the Earth Devil Hall now. With that, the devil cultivator led the way. It was fine if the devil cultivator did not come, but the moment he came, Suyin knew the purpose of the Supreme Sect. It was most likely because of the matter of emptying the place. Otherwise, the devil cultivator would not have run over to let him go. Suyin could not understand why the Supreme Sect would come here. With that thought in mind, Suyin walked toward the Earth Devil Hall with heavy footsteps. The Earth Devil Hall was a dignified and grand hall. It was built like a hall, and at the entrance stood two gigantic Earth Demon lions. But these two Earth Demon lions were not statues, but living creatures. They had the bodies of elephants, their eyes were red, their entire bodies were filled with devil chi. Their sharp claws could easily tear apart a first-stage sky spirit master existence. They were given the task of guarding the Earth Devil Hall. When Suyin walked over, the two Earth Demon Lion's eyes had already landed on Suyin at the same time. Bang! At this moment, a deep sound erupted from the Earth Devil Hall. Following, there was a gloomy and angry roar. What does your Supreme Sect mean by this? When did we kidnap a disciple who wants to be at ease to the true Devil Sect? Do we have nothing better to do? He has always been clear with my true Devil Sect. Why will we do that? From the sound of it, it seemed to be the voice of the sixth elder. We do not know the reason, nor do we want to know. I only ask one question. Is Suyin here? If he is, please let him out. An emotionless mechanized voice came out again. Suyin is my true Devil Sect's Demon Lord. How can you meet him whenever you want? If you are unwilling, then we have nothing to say. We can only report this matter to the sect and ask for their decision. The mechanical voice sounded again. Hold on. Octagon Aniseed's voice came out. This matter still needs to be discussed. We do not know why you are looking for our Demon Lord. Can you please explain yourself? There's no need to say any more. We only want Suyin. The other party didn't seem to want to say even a single word more. Supreme Sect's unreasonable words had indeed made the devil cultivator unhappy. Hearing that, Suyin immediately quickened his pace and walked into the hall. When they saw Suyin walking in, everyone's gazes were focused on him. Demon Lord? The main character is here. A wry smile appeared on his face. Demon Lord, you shouldn't have come. Standing Demon shook his head. If I didn't come, this matter would be even more difficult to explain. Suyin heaved a sigh of relief, cupped his fists towards the crowd, and then turned to look at the Supreme Sect people who were dressed in white robes with golden patterns. I heard a rough idea from outside, and everyone seems to want to take me away. I wonder how I, Suyin, have offended all of you, to need all of you to go through so much trouble to come to the true Devil Sect to capture me? Suyin said indifferently. Did you save Su Shuntian and the other disciples who wanted to be at ease? The leader said expressionlessly. Suyin frowned. I did save them, and my parents are indeed safe now. But to be exact, I did not save them. My parents? Are you the son of Su Shuntian? And Shunshueshue? The man asked again. That's right. Since that's the case, then please come with us. I have already been sent to the Supreme Sect, and Su Shintian and Shanshueshue are also the main culprits of blaspheming the Holy Maiden and insulting the Supreme Divine Tao. We must capture them and hand them over to the sect for punishment. What if I don't go with you? We can only forcefully take him. The man said indifferently. How dare you? What do you think this is? Standing Demon roared. Whoever dares to act recklessly will be killed on the spot and will not be let off lightly. We are all pursuing the Supreme Divine Tao, and in order to protect the sacred reputation of the Divine Way, we are willing to die 10,000 times. Is the True Devil sect planning to go against the wishes of our Divine Way and become our enemy? The man raised his head and looked at the standing demon. The True Devil sect has never been afraid of anyone. Even if it's your Supreme Sect, we are not afraid. Standing Demon clenched his teeth and said, Since everyone is unwilling, I can only return to the sect to report this matter. Please prepare as soon as possible to welcome the baptism of my Supreme Divine Tao. With that, he was about to leave. Hearing that, Su Yin did not dare to let them leave and immediately said, This matter has nothing to do with the True Devil sect. I am not the demon lord that they speak of. If your Supreme Sect wants to take someone, just take me. The True Devil sect has nothing to do with this matter. Hearing that, the man turned around. Then you plan to come with us? Of course not. Su Yun shook his head. Although I am not a member of the True Devil sect, it does not mean that I will submit to you. If he was trapped in the Supreme Divine Tao, he would definitely be brainwashed. And at that time, he would only be devoured by the limitless profound Qi. How could Su Yin dare to go to the Supreme Sect? You are not a member of the True Devil sect, and you are not willing to return with us, so we can only forcefully take you away. The man said, then waved his hand, and the experts of the Supreme Sect behind him rushed toward Su Yun. In the blink of an eye, there were people all around him. His speed was extremely fast, as though he had teleported. Su Yun's eyes congealed and was about to move. However, in the next second, a figure suddenly scuttled over. With a speed that even the Spirit Emperor could not react to, he quickly shuttled back and forth between the Supreme Sect people. In an instant, blood splattered in all directions. Chapter 700. Su Yun was startled for a moment, only to see the corpses of the Supreme Sect people falling to the ground. All of them were dismembered, their bodies split into 5 pieces. They were already dead to the point that they couldn't be more dead, their souls scattered in the air. As for the remaining leader, Wu Xinzi, he had yet to regain his senses. When he raised his eyes to look at the person who had killed his comrade, he felt his neck tighten. Then, his feet left the ground, and his entire body was lifted up. With a glance, he realized that Octagon Aniseed had already made his move. His blood-red eyes were wide open, and his innocent face, which could be said to be cute, was now filled with malevolence, like a ferocious demon. Hey kid, were you threatening our True Devil sect just now? Octagon Aniseed slowly opened his mouth, his voice revealing endless coldness. The man's neck was deformed from the force exerted by his 8 teeth. He could no longer breathe, and it was even more difficult for him to speak. However, there was no fear in his eyes, nor was there any fear on his face. He only said in a hoarse voice, Supreme Sect is not afraid of any sect and will not let go of any existence that insults the Supreme Divine Tao. Are you saying that our True Devil sect will be afraid of any sect and will let go of any sect that is our enemy? He laughed coldly. Wu Xinzi snorted a few times, but before he could say anything, he heard, Kacha, with a crisp sound. Heartless Head was directly twisted off by the 8 teeth. When the surrounding demon sect elders saw this, they all widened their eyes. Octagon Aniseed nonchalantly reached out his hand and pulled out the man's heart. He then threw the corpse to the side and sat on a chair to eat in big mouthfuls, as if nothing had happened. Standing Demon and the others were still in shock. Su Yin was also startled for a moment, and only after a long while did he regain his senses. He took a deep breath and shook his head. Sect Master, by doing this, You are clearly trying to start a war with the Supreme Sect for me. It's not worth it. I'm not doing this for you. Octagon Aniseed swallowed all of the heart into his mouth, wiped his blood-stained mouth, and said, I am doing this to protect the reputation of the true Devil Sect. The people of the Supreme Sect are looking down on my true Devil Sect and insulting the true Devil Sect in public. They are guilty of death. Furthermore, even if we don't kill them, they won't let our true Devil Sect off. If I leave the true Devil Sect, they will definitely not find trouble with the true Devil Sect anymore. The true Devil Sect will also be able to stay out of this. Su Yin said, No, Su Yin, you're thinking too simply. Actually, from the very beginning, no matter if it was empty or the real Devil Sect, they had already been included in the Supreme Sect's list. No matter what we do, we will not be able to make the Supreme Sect give up. Octagon Aniseed shook his head. Everyone was puzzled when they heard that. Why do you say that? Why? Isn't that simple? The people of Supreme Sect are unreasonable in their hearts. There's only the Supreme Divine Tao. Everything else is not in their eyes. But faith is faith. You cannot lose your mind because of faith. Do you dare to say that the people of Supreme Sect are idiots? If you want to bring people to lure the Holy Maiden Su Luluo with the intention of injecting the clear memory pill into her body, erasing her memories and saving her from the Supreme Sect, this matter is indeed very serious. But the Holy Maiden is safe and sound, and the matter has not developed to the point of no return. Even if the people of Supreme Sect want to protect the Supreme Divine Tao, protect the dignity of the Holy Maiden and the sect, there is no need for them to empty themselves out. You have to know, if a sect wants a hand over the pillar of the sect, how great would the consequences and impact be? If he did this, not only would his own sect lose face, his reputation would be ruined, and he would be ridiculed by the people of the world. It would also cause the hearts of the disciples of the sect to tremble, causing their hearts to be unstable. The people of the Supreme Sect would know this, and the people of the Supreme Sect would also know this. The Supreme Sect's faith is in the Supreme Divine Tao, and everyone in the sect has the goal of chasing after the Supreme Divine Tao. They do not really like to fight and kill, nor do they want to waste their time on the grudges between the sects. So even if they want to punish themselves, the best way to solve this is to pressure the Supreme Sect and let them deal with it. This way, the relationship between the two sects will not deteriorate, and they can save their face. However, the Supreme Sect did not do that. They used forceful methods to force them to hand over the person and bring them back to the sect to be dealt with. This way, it is definitely not a suitable solution. The people of the Supreme Sect are unreasonable. It's not strange that they would do this. Su Yin interjected at the last minute. Octagon Aniseed shook his head. Unreasonable depends on when, in fact, there are times when the Supreme Sect is much smarter than we imagined. For example now, the reason why they are so unreasonable and domineering is because they have a purpose. They had already handed over their desire to the Supreme Sect, and their goal had been achieved. However, they did not expect that they would give them an extremely important message, or rather, good news. What message? This time, there's also Su Yun from the True Devil Sect. Hearing that, Su Yun frowned. What does that mean? It means that the people of the Supreme Sect have an excuse to make a move on my True Devil Sect. Octagon Aniseed walked to the front of a dismembered corpse, reached out his hand and took out his heart, then bit down on it as if he was eating a fruit. Blood spurted out, and as he ate, he said vaguely, They can easily settle this matter, protect the sect's face, and preserve the reputation of the Supreme Divine Tao. But they did not do so. Instead, they are arrogant and overbearing. Why? Because they wanted to use this opportunity to preach. Whether it is the emptying or the True Devil Sect, once they have an excuse, they will not give up. As soon as he said this, the expressions of everyone present turned serious. I have already received news that the Supreme Sect has already quietly made a move on the dozen or so small sects in the surrounding realms. Because the Supreme Sect's reputation is not good, many people are extremely fearful, and every day, a large number of disciples in the Supreme Sect die because of cultivating the Supreme Divine Tao. So the Supreme Sect's strength is quickly weakening. The number of disciples is quickly decreasing. They must absorb new blood in order to maintain the development of the sect, to maintain the supreme divine Tao in their hearts. So they must absorb more people into the supreme sect, and most of the people from these small sects have already been successfully converted by them, joining the supreme divine Tao, and those who do not have all been killed by them. However, the annexation of these small sects can no longer keep up with the speed at which their disciples are dying. Therefore, they can only annex a super sect in order to allow the supreme sect to rise to the next level. But the supreme sect has offended two superpowers. If our true devil sect joins hands with them, even if we cannot destroy the supreme sect, we can still protect ourselves. Standing Demon said, "No, you have underestimated the strength of the supreme sect." Octagon Aniseed shook his head. "Let me tell you the truth. Even if the true devil sect and empty joined hands, they would still not be a match for the supreme sect. The true power of the supreme sect is not something we can imagine." "What?" Standing Demon and the others all sucked in a breath of cold air. "What does that have to do with this matter? The supreme sect is here to find an excuse. I have left the true devil sect. They have no excuse to use, so they won't make a move on the true devil sect, right?" Suyin said solemnly. "Excuses can be made." Octagon Aniseed laughed bitterly. "Furthermore, even if you leave, it will be useless. The people of Supreme Sect are already unreasonable. Could it be that you still have any excuses? In fact, it was also an extremely wrong decision to hand over the desire to be free to the Supreme Sect. Let's not talk about the damage to the reputation and the hearts of the people after the desire to be given to the Supreme Sect. Just by doing so, it had prompted the Supreme Sect's plan to succeed. Perhaps the Venerable One thought that since he had handed over the person, the Supreme Sect would not do anything to him. But in reality, he was completely wrong. I believe that within a few months, the desire to be free will be released by the Supreme Sect and return to the empty realm. Oh, why? I only need to instill the concept of the Supreme Divine Tao into him, brainwash him, turn him into his own people, and then put him in the empty realm to preach. Then, with the reputation and status of the empty realm, it is only a matter of time before the empty realm falls into the enemy's hands. At that time, with the help of the Supreme Sect, the empty realm will definitely not be able to protect them. What's funny is that the emptiness realm expert is still hoping that he can bring peace to them, but he doesn't know that the Supreme Sect's tiger claws have already extended towards them. When Octagon Aniseed's words fell into everyone's ears, they broke out in a cold sweat. When the empty realm is swallowed up, the Supreme Sect will do his best to deal with my true devil sect. The matter with the Holy Maiden is just a fuse, whether it happens or not. The Supreme Sect will make a move on us. It's just a matter of time. So, the reason why I killed these people today is to show off to the Supreme Sect, to tell them that my true devil sect is not afraid of a Supreme Sect." Octagon Aniseed wiped the blood off his mouth and said indifferently, "Standing Demon, quickly report this matter to the sect master. Request the sect master to increase the number of disciples stationed at the entrance of the true devil realm, and at the same time, send more spies to the entrance of the Supreme Realm to keep an eye on the Supreme Sect's every move." "Yes, Vice Sect Leader." Octagon Aniseed cupped his fists and immediately ran down. When the others saw this, they also began to move. Only Suyin was left with a serious face. "Demon Lord, what are you thinking?" Octagon Aniseed stretched lazily, then curled up his body and asked with a smile. "Now that the Supreme Sect has an excuse, I think with their personality, it won't be long before they send out their forces to attack the true devil sect." Suyin said indifferently. Hearing that, Octagon Aniseed was silent for a moment, then let out a sigh. "You're right, but even so, we are not afraid. The devil cultivator is worthy of the heavens and earth. No matter how strong the Supreme Sect is, we will not hand you over. Our true devil sect is not empty. If they want to fight, then let's fight." As he spoke, he started to laugh. His smile was brilliant, revealing a sense of fearlessness. Suyin looked at Octagon Aniseed quietly. At this moment, he seemed to understand what a true devil should look like. "That's right. What's there to be afraid of? If he wants to fight, then let's fight. If he were to cower and compromise like this, would it be peace? Time is of the essence. I should go down and prepare. Suyin, this matter actually does not have much to do with you. I suggest that you stay in the true devil sect to cultivate. As for the battle with the supreme sect, do not interfere for now. Octagon Aniseed said, and then walked out of the Earth Demon Hall. In fact, relatively speaking, Su Yun's cultivation was not high among these people. Although he had experienced the training in the quiet world, he was still at the peak of the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. In the battle with the Supreme Sect, even the Spirit Emperor would not be able to guarantee his own safety, let alone him. However, should he just stay out of it? Chapter 701. Oh, Wuxin Zi and his group went to the True Devil Sect, but they were all killed? In the Holy Spirit Hall, the Emptiness Realm expert stared at Guzizai, who was kneeling on the ground, and said, "That's right." Guzizai laughed. "I never thought that these True Devil Sects would be so stupid and reckless. This subordinate thinks that it won't be long before the Supreme Sect makes things difficult for the True Devil Sect. It is said that the one who made a move this time was the Vice Sect Master of the True Devil Sect, Chi, who had a high status and represented the True Devil Sect. I'm afraid that the True Devil Sect would not be able to resolve this matter easily. It is only a matter of time before the two families start fighting." At this point, a strong light of excitement flashed past Guzizai's eyes. "You're right." Venerable Emptiness Realm expert nodded and said indifferently, "If the True Devil Sect and the Supreme Sect were to fight, we could take advantage of the situation and help the Supreme Sect. At the same time, we could divide up the True Devil Sect and seize their resources. The people of the Supreme Sect do not care about fame and fortune. The reason they attacked the True Devil Sect was only to protect the holiness and purity of the Supreme Divine Tao, this kind of illusory thing. Since they want spiritual things, then we want material things. The Venerable One is wise." Guzizai hurriedly called out, "Send more people to keep an eye on the borders of the Demon Realm and the Supreme Gate. If there's any movement, report it to me immediately." "Yes, sir." Guzizai nodded. Venerable Emptiness Realm expert nodded, then said indifferently, "Is there any movement from the Martial Imperial Palace?" "There are no movements for the time being. It is said that Shun Shui was brought back to the hall by Shun Wu Huang and was placed under house arrest. This subordinate does not know, but there is one thing that this subordinate must inform the Venerable One of." Guzizai said, "What is it?" "Someone said that before Shun Wu Huang took Shun Shui away, he made a trip to the ultimate martial world." Venerable Emptiness Realm expert frowned. "What is he doing there?" "This subordinate does not know, but he brought back a young lady. It is said that this young lady is a descendant of the Shun family that he placed in the Sky Martial Continent a long time ago. Shun Wu Huang has the intention to nurture this young lady." Venerable One, the Martial Imperial Palace is the representative of the martial power of the myriad heavens realm. Shun Wu Huang must have some intentions for doing this, I'm afraid. Guzizai lowered his voice and said, "Why do you think so?" Venerable Emptiness stared at Guzizai and asked indifferently, "Because when Shun Wu Huang nurtured the talents of the Martial Imperial Palace, he would never place them in a lowly realm like the Sky Martial Continent. And this young lady, not only is she the daughter of his most beloved son, she is also a genius that is rarely seen in 1,000 years in the Martial Imperial Palace. It is said that when Shun Wu Huang went to welcome this young lady, he used the 9 Immortals carriage, and 10,000 people welcomed him. The scene was extremely grand, as though everyone in the world knew about it, and it is enough to show how much importance Shun Wu Huang places on her. Venerable One, no matter what, I feel that we should still do some investigation regarding this young lady. Shun Wu Huang no longer places me in his eyes. If he grows stronger in the future, wouldn't he eat us alive?" The more Guzizai spoke, the slower he became, but his voice became more and more condensed. When the Venerable One heard this, his deep eyes were already filled with an indescribable seriousness. He thought for a while, then slowly opened his mouth. Send some more people to keep an eye on the martial imperial palace. After leaving the True Devil sect, Su Yun rushed straight towards the Wanhua realm. The determination of Octagon Aniseed had already caused the calm, True Devil sect to stir once again. Although what Octagon Aniseed said was the truth, and there would definitely be disputes between the True Devil sect and the Supreme sect, Su Yun had always thought that this dispute was caused by him. Ever since he became the Devil sect's demon lord, Su Yun realized that he was becoming more and more useless. He did not contribute even half an inch to the Devil sect, but instead caused trouble for the Devil sect every day. Furthermore, this time, he was going to deal with the unprecedentedly huge sect, the Supreme sect. If he still didn't do anything, how could he let it go? Stepping into the Wanhua realm, at the moment, the Wanhua realm was in a mess. After experiencing the devastation of the great battles, the Wanhua realm could be said to be in pieces, and the battle between the Supreme Expertess caused the realm that was once a paradise on Earth to change beyond recognition. The Realm Master had invested a large amount of Realm Tree energy to rebuild it, and, at the same time, sealed the connection between the Wanhua realm and the outside world, so people from the outside world could no longer casually enter. However, he had no choice but to head to the Realm Tree to pay his respects to the Realm Master. However, just as he arrived at the Realm Tree, he was informed by Rongmyuk that the Realm Master had already left the Wanhua realm. Su Yun asked where he was going, but Rongmyuk refused to answer. This was a secret matter of the Wanhua realm, so Su Yun could not ask, so he could only leave. Sword Ancestor had already been settled down by the Realm Master. Su Yun went to pay his respects to Sword Ancestor, and then hurriedly rushed to the dark place inside the Linglong Mountain. Stepping into the dark place, it was still that miraculous and pitch-black river. Old man! Old man! Su Yun shouted loudly by the river. After an unknown period of time, an impatient voice came out from behind Su Yun. So noisy! So noisy! Which guy's making a ruckus here? Hearing that, Su Yun was immediately overjoyed. He turned around, only to see the old man with a crooked body and a wretched appearance appearing behind him again. Seeing that, without saying a word, Su Yun immediately took out a profound coin card that was glowing with a golden light from his storage ring and pressed it on the old man's chest. Tell me, the specific location of the clear, sky, holy robe. Since he had made his decision, he immediately took action. Time waited for no one. The conflict between the Supreme Sect and the Real Devil Sect had already arisen. The thoughts of the people of the Supreme Sect were so sharp. The grudge between the two sects could no longer be resolved, or it could even be said that it was difficult to delay. After the Dark Place was baptized by the Dark Demon Palace, there were fewer aboriginals. Adding to the chaos in the Wanhua realm, the number of people in the Dark Place had decreased greatly, and the order here had become much more stable. However, compared to the entire Wanhua realm, the current Dark Place was the most harmonious place. The Realm Tree had already begun an extremely severe punishment. In order to maintain the order of the Wanhua realm and allow the Wanhua realm to continue developing, this time, the people of Realm Tree had put away their past kindness and punished anyone who caused trouble with torture. In a dark corner, which interface do you need to go to? Esteemed guest? A little demon with red horns on the bridge of his nose rubbed his skinny palms and said while grinning, Sword World. Su Yun put on the cloak that he had prepared in the storage ring, and at the same time, pinned the demon lord's bone to his waist. If the bone was not worn, it would just be an ordinary mask. Sword World? Hearing Su Yun's words, the little demon was immediately startled. What is it? Are there no cracks that lead to the Sword World? Su Yun lowered his voice. Yes, but, guest, you don't seem to be from the Sword World. Go into the Sword World. I'm afraid it will be dangerous. The little demon swallowed his saliva and said, Just lead the way. Su Yun put on his hood, and his pale face was immediately covered by the haze. After the little demon heard this, he did not say anything else. He extended his hand and said, Guest, please follow me. Then, he quickly led Su Yun deeper into the dark place. After walking for half a day, the little demon lord led Su Yun to a hill. The center of the hill had already split open, and a red and blue light shone out from the crevice. Standing in front of the crevice and looking inside, one could see that the crevice was unfathomable, and the myriad of lights inside were extremely dazzling. If you fall into it, you will be able to enter the sword world. The little demon said, "Where will you enter the sword world?" Suyin said. Hearing this question, the little demon's face turned ugly again, its body trembled slightly, and said, "Fierce. Evil sword forest. Evil sword forest." Suyin raised his eyebrows. He sized up the little demon again and said, "You seem to understand the sword world quite well. Your cultivation seems to be only at the first stage of the Sky Spirit Master, but you are so familiar with the sword world. Have you been to the sword world before?" This. Sigh, customer, to be honest, I have stayed in the sword world for 5 years before. But customer, do not misunderstand. I am not from the sword world, but I accidentally entered the sword world through this crevice. In these 5 years, I have really narrowly escaped death. The sword world is filled with bloodthirsty swordsmen. They fight all day, and draw their swords at each other. After I mistakenly entered the sword world, I have been hiding here and there for the past 5 years, looking for a way to leave the sword world. In these 5 years, I have been really scared, and every day is like a year. If not for luck, I do not know how many times I have died. At this point, the little demon's body couldn't help but tremble a few times. Hearing that, Su Yun rubbed his chin and thought for a moment, patted the black cloak on his body, then took out a piece of paper that he had prepared before from his storage ring and handed it over to the little demon. Write down all the information you know about the sword world on this, and then draw the map of the evil sword forest to the mighty sword valley. I will pay you another 300,000 profound coin. Hearing that, the little demon did not hesitate. He immediately took the paper, activated the profound strength, and wrote on the paper. After about the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the little demon stopped and handed the paper over. This lowly one only knows this much. Suyin took it and looked at it. However, it only recorded less than half of the map and the main points of the sword world, which was the area from the evil sword forest to the place where Jian Shi left the sword world. However, this was enough. Suyin kept the map into his storage ring, and once again transferred 300,000 profound coin from the profound coin to the little demon, and then directly jumped into the crevice. Crash! As he entered the crevice, light exploded, and the spatial aura once again wrapped around Su Yun's body, as though his soul was about to leave his body. The strange feeling lasted for only about 10 breaths of time, and then it dissipated. Su Yun's consciousness also instantly showed a gap, as though he had fainted, but he quickly recovered. When he opened his eyes, there was already a gust of wind blowing past his face, and clouds rippled in front of his eyes. He looked around and realized that he was actually in midair. He immediately urged the immortal mystical scarlet bloodsword, stepped on the sword, and slowly descended. Below them was an extremely lush forest. Evil Sword Forest. Chapter 702. Crack. A crisp sound rang out on the dark mountaintop. A young girl wearing a dark green Blade Master outfit was carrying a dark green demonic long sword as she walked towards the center of the mountain. Behind her, there were corpses all over the ground. None of the corpses were complete. Some had their chests pierced through, some had their heads chopped off, and some had their bodies split in half. The scene was extremely terrifying, like an Azura hell. Floating in the air were the souls of these corpses. They were fleeing in panic, wailing like ghosts and howling like gods. Helpless expressions could be seen on every soul. At the center of the mountain stood a middle-aged man. The man had a goatee and fiery red hair. He held a long, slender, one-handed saber in his hand. The edge of the saber was emitting flames and looked very mighty. He stared at the girl who was walking towards him step by step. His eyes darkened, and his twisted face revealed the anger and hatred in his heart. "Why are you doing this?" The man growled in a low voice. His voice was abnormally hoarse. "When did I, Lang Duanshan, offend you? Why did you poison more than 300 people from my sect? Why? Why?" The roar reverberated throughout the entire mountain. However, The girl didn't say a word. The man couldn't hold it in any longer. He looked away from the corpses on the ground behind the young girl. With a roar, he raised his sword and rushed forward. The edge of the saber burst out a tongue of flame that was several feet long, attacking the young girl. However, her slender body was extremely agile and easily dodged the tongues of fire. Then, she moved quickly and turned into a series of afterimages. She surrounded the man and attacked him from all four directions. Four dark green swords pierced forward. It was so fast that it caused one's heart to palpitate, and so fierce that it caused one's hair to stand on end. The man didn't even have the time to defend himself and was pierced by these shadows. His body shattered, and in an instant, the four figures all exploded, and a thick poisonous fog spread out in all directions. The man's skin and flesh began to corrode, and his limbs fell off. In the blink of an eye, his entire body turned into a pile of rotten flesh, and he died in an extremely miserable way. Upon seeing that, the young lady expressionlessly took out a porcelain bottle from the interspatial bag on her waist and made a grabbing motion in the air. The souls that were still lingering in the air were all collected by the porcelain bottle. Following that, she walked towards the man's rotten flesh and picked up his interspatial bag. She tore it open and took out the items inside. Finally, she pinched out a piece of lustrous gemstone. The girl looked at the gem carefully, and her green eyes revealed a strong desire to fight. With this chi-increasing mysterious stone, I will be able to challenge Stone Sword Mo Chongwen. After saying that in a deep voice, she put the stone into her interspatial bag and turned to go down the mountain. Clack! A soft sound came from the forest. Su Yun kept the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword, used his cape to cover the sword sheath, and walked straight into the forest. This was the Fierce Sword Forest. The Fierce Sword Forest was extremely large, and the trees in the forest were more than 10 meters tall. It was said that this was the only way to the north and south of the Sword World, and because the forest was extremely large and the trees were dense, there were often bandits that ran amok here. Many cruel and tyrannical people would hide here to avoid their enemies, which was why this forest was called the Fierce Sword Forest. Su Yin wandered around the forest for an entire morning, and after figuring out the direction and route, he set off. The dispute between the Supreme Sect and the True Devil Sect was about to erupt, so Su Yun would naturally not stand idly by the side and watch. He could also take this opportunity to test out the rumored Holy Maiden of the Divine Way in the Supreme Sect, the little sister he had never met before, Su Luluo. It was just that even a super strong expert like Su Zizai was beaten into a sorry state by Su Luluo and had his memories erased. With Su Yun's little cultivation, what was the point of seeking death? Therefore, without the protection of a sharp weapon, he could not act rashly. Suddenly, the sound of something tearing through the air came from above his head. Su Yun's expression tensed up. He immediately stuck close to the big tree at the side and looked up, only to see a spirit cultivator holding onto a sharp sword that was stained with blood, smashing through the dense trees and flying crazily. His body was covered in sword wounds, and, as he rushed forward, he would turn his head from time to time. From the looks of it, he seemed to be running for his life. Sure enough, not long after the spirit cultivator flew away, another spirit cultivator rushed over from behind. The spirit cultivator was covered in silver armor, holding onto a sharp sword that was close to 2 meters long. The sharp sword was extremely thin, like a huge needle. When he flew past Su Yun, he suddenly looked at the big tree that Su Yun was leaning on, but he did not stop and continued to chase after his target. In just an instant, Su Yun felt a chill run down his spine. The two spirit cultivators that had just passed by had cultivations above his own and were probably close to the spirit emperor. Although Su Yun was wearing the Long Zhun's wristband, he was still captured by the other party. From the looks of it, the evil sword forest was indeed filled with experts, and the vicious ones were wreaking havoc. The Long Zhun's wristband that Huayro Miyu had gifted him was not of much use to the existence of the spirit emperor. If the other party were to deliberately peek at his cultivation, it would be very difficult to hide his cultivation with the help of this magic treasure. Suyin had also fought with the experts of the Cloud Heavenly Palace before, but compared to the two just now, the people of the Cloud Heavenly Palace were still too young and inexperienced. He took a deep breath and immediately turned around, heading to the other side to avoid encountering the two. However, before he could go far, a thick smell of blood suddenly filled the air. Suyin frowned. He immediately took out the death sword from his back and changed his direction, planning to stay away from the smell of blood. But at this moment, a cold snort suddenly came out. "Are you also here to snatch the divine stone? Since you're here, don't leave. Leave your life behind." As the sound of his voice faded, more than 10 trees in the forest suddenly exploded, blooming in all directions. An extremely sharp sword chi pierced straight towards them. Su Yun's heart sank. In a split second, he activated the 7th tier Imperial equipment. Clang! The chi cover protected his body. Dong! When the sword chi struck the chi cover, it immediately exploded. Su Yun was forced back half a step by the force. He stared at the direction where the sword chi came from, and the devil chi around his body scattered in all directions like tentacles. "Sir, you misunderstand. I'm just passing by. I do not know anything about the divine stone that you're talking about," Su Yin said coldly. "That's what you all say, and then when I relax my guard, you kill me again. It's a pity that I won't be fooled again." "Die!" A cold voice exploded out, and a figure quickly scuttled over. Su Yin only saw a flash of cold light, and a sharp sword had unknowingly approached his neck. Clang! The chi cover rose again, blocking the incomparably sharp sword. Su Yun looked over, only to see a man with disheveled hair, dressed in a black blade master outfit, but his entire body was covered in blood, wielding a sword and attacking fiercely. In the blink of an eye, the man had already unleashed hundreds of sword strikes. The sword strikes were terrifying and sinister. The sword chi and sword intent were overbearing. Looking at his strength, he was at least at the 8th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. Su Yun's face turned cold, without saying a word. He kept his Imperial equipment, pulled out his death sword, and swept it towards him. The moment the sword was released, countless sword images appeared. More than 1,000 swords were split apart, as if they were being swallowed by a ferocious beast. That person's pupils dilated a few times. Before he could block, he was swallowed by the sharp sword, and the Blade Master outfit on his body was immediately turned into strips of cloth. His skin and flesh were covered in sword wounds, and fresh blood gushed out. The man's eyes widened as he looked at Su Yun in shock. In terms of sword speed, Su Yun was not afraid of anyone. However, the man did not give up. With a sinister look on his face, he growled and rushed over again. He quickly twisted his steps, his body taking on the shape of a snake, alternating between left and right. As he ran, his body created 12 afterimages, and his real body moved back and forth among the afterimages, making it impossible to find his real body. However, Su Yin did not even look at him, and looked at the incoming man indifferently. "Go to hell!" The man got close to Su Yin, roared, and attacked again. However, Su Yun's hand that was holding onto the death sword changed into the Imperial equipment in a split second, and the chi cover rose again. This speed of activating the profound strength and summoning the magic treasure was even faster than his sword. What? The man was already shocked to the point that his heart was palpitating with fear. When had he ever seen such a fast activation of the profound strength? Just then, Su Yun instantly withdrew the Imperial equipment and pulled out the death sword. He held onto the sword with one hand and grabbed onto the man's shoulder with the other. The mournful death sword slashed straight at the man's arm. It was so fast that no one could believe their eyes. Was this still the speed that a human should have? Even an immortal wouldn't be as fast as him, right? Crack! His arm was broken, and blood spurted out from the man's shoulder. Miserable cries reverberated in the air. Following that, Su Yun kicked the man in the stomach, causing him to fall more than 10 meters away and fall to the ground, trembling. "I've already said that I'm just passing by. Why won't you believe me? Why must you threaten me with death?" Su Yun's eyes gradually turned red. The devil chi surged. He walked towards the man step by step, his entire body filled with uncontrollable killing intent. The man staggered backwards, looking at Su Yun in fear. His face distorted, he shouted, "Don't kill me! Don't kill me!" Suddenly, the man seemed to have thought of something. His other hand trembled as he reached towards the space bag at his waist, and after rummaging around for a while, he took out a purple stone the size of an egg and directly threw it at Su Yun, shouting, "At most, I'll give you the divine stone." After throwing the stone, he crawled up with all his might and fled in a sorry state. Su Yun's gaze landed on the stone that fell in front of his feet. After thinking for a while, he picked it up. The stone's entire body was purple, like a crystal. Its surface was suffused with a circle of lustrous light, and its interior seemed to contain endless stars. It was extremely dazzling, and what was strange was that when it was held in the palm of his hand, it actually had an indescribable suction force. It was not heavy, but when placed in the palm of his hand, as time passed, Su Yun felt that it was getting heavier and heavier, heavier and heavier. What was going on? Su Yun was suspicious. At this moment, the sound of footsteps came from afar. His expression tensed up, and he immediately kept the stone. With a tap of his foot, he took out his flying sword and flew into the distance. Chapter 703. After getting far away from the strange footsteps, Su Yun pushed his speed to the limit and rushed forward. The other party seemed to have sensed Su Yun's existence and wanted to chase after him with all his might. But his speed was no match for Su Yun's, and he was still left behind. Su Yun stepped on his flying sword and flew for a period of time before landing. Although flying high in the sky could speed up his journey, if he met other spirit cultivator with a higher cultivation than him, this kind of action would be a provocation to the other party and cause trouble. Therefore, flying close to the ground was the most convenient way to travel. The Evil Sword Forest was extremely huge. Su Yun walked in one direction for about a day, but he did not leave. Instead, along the way, he met many corpses, blood, and places destroyed by sword chi. There were not many fierce beasts in the entire forest, and there were only corpses. Most of these fierce beasts were killed by the spirit cultivator, and there were even more corpses of the spirit cultivator than these fierce beasts. Every once in a while, he would be able to see the places where the trees had been cut down and the ground had been destroyed. In the end, it's the Evil Sword Forest. It seems like there are fights everywhere, Su Yun thought. On this day, if it wasn't for his fast legs, he might have been caught up by some bandits and killed. After traveling for a day, the sky darkened. Su Yun found a branch and sat down cross-legged, circulating his chi to recover. After recuperating for a while, he took out the drawing drawn by the little demon and glanced at it. At this speed, I'll be able to leave the Evil Sword Forest in another day. If everything goes smoothly, I might be able to reach the Mighty Sword Valley in less than 10 days, but I don't know where that thing is located in the Mighty Sword Valley. Thinking about it, Su Yun could not help but frown. Finding something was not an easy task, not to mention that he did not know the exact location of this thing. Right now, the only thing he could rely on was the heavenly seeking treasure bell. He hoped that it would be able to tell him his whereabouts. Su Yun exhaled, feeling that his calm state of mind had once again become a little chaotic. He shook his head and took out the stone he had obtained from the storage ring. He held it in his hand and looked at it carefully. The stone did not look like a magic treasure, but more like a material. He carefully injected a bit of profound chi into the stone, but when the profound chi entered the stone actually produced an indescribable aura. In that moment, Su Yun felt that he did not have much strength left in his body, and the stone suddenly became heavy, almost causing him to lose his grip. Su Yun was shocked and quickly threw the stone into his storage ring. He sat down cross-legged and carefully inspected his body, only to discover to his astonishment that the profound energy in his body had actually decreased by a third. Well, what was going on? Su Yun's brain could not wrap around it. After thinking for a long time, he still did not know the reason. Most likely, it had something to do with the stone. This stone is definitely not an ordinary one. Looks like I'll have to do some research, Su Yun thought. He sat cross-legged on the ground for a few hours, and after recovering his profound chi, he stood up and took advantage of the night to continue his journey. However, not long after, a silent sword chi suddenly shot out from behind him and smashed onto Su Yun's body without any warning. Su Yun was caught off guard and fell from the sky. The sword chi passed through his protective profound chi and hit his skin and flesh, but only scratched his skin and did not injure his muscles and bones. Although the injury was not serious, the place where the sword chi struck sent waves of numbness, and the numbness spread throughout his body like an electric current. Su Yun wanted to stand up, but suddenly felt that he did not have much strength left in his body. Su Yun extended his hand and pulled out the death sword with some difficulty and stared ahead vigilantly. A figure holding a long sword slowly walked out from the front. It was a skinny but very young-looking youth. He was wearing a dark green Blade Master cloth, which was covered in blood, but it was not damaged. From this, it could be seen that the blood belonged to someone else. There was a cross-shaped scar on his face, his cheeks were sunken, and his eyes were filled with ruthlessness. His left hand was holding onto his sword, while his right hand was holding onto a bloody head. Su Yun's gaze landed on the head, only to see that it was rather familiar. It was the spirit cultivator who had one of his arms cut off by Su Yun earlier. The youth threw the head over and smiled at Su Yun. "I think you know him, right?" This guy said that the divine stone was snatched away by a person wearing a black cloak. "I extracted your aura from his wound and chased after him. All right, after wasting so much of my time, it's time to end it. Hand over the divine stone." The youth laughed, his smile seemingly harmless. "Oh, so it's to steal the divine stone." Hearing that, Su Yun was suddenly enlightened. Otherwise, why would a fifth-stage Sky Spirit Master fellow like you be worth it for me to spend so much effort to chase after you? The youth spat out a mouthful of saliva and laughed in disdain. Hearing that, Su Yun was silent for a moment. After that, he took out the divine stone from his storage ring and placed it in front of him. Seeing that, the youth's gaze was immediately attracted by the divine stone, as if the divine stone was a magnet, tightly pulling his gaze. "From your aura, you should be at the 9th stage of the Sky Spirit Master." Very strong. But if I were to resist with my life on the line, you wouldn't be able to snatch the divine stone from me so easily, right?" Su Yun said indifferently. "Oh." A disdainful smile appeared on the youth's face once again. "You're too confident. In my eyes, you're no different from a bug on a tree. If I want to take your life, I only need a single thought. If you think you can kill me in an instant, then do it. I can guarantee you that before you even kill me, I can attract a group of enemies for you. This is the evil sword forest, and there are as many greedy and vicious people as there are hairs on a cow. Everyone should want this divine stone, right? They should be willing to fight with you for this stone. Since you want to kill me, then I won't give it to you, even if I have to risk my life." Su Yun said indifferently, "Just because I can't kill you doesn't mean that others can't kill you." Hearing Su Yun's words, the youth's face changed. "Are you threatening me?" "Whatever you think." Su Yun was still as calm and collected as ever. His expression did not change much. As for fear, that was even more so non-existent. The youth secretly examined Su Yun's expression and realized that he was not flustered at all. His heart was filled with doubt. This guy doesn't seem to be afraid of me at all. Is he pretending, or does he have a backup plan? A 5th-stage Sky Spirit Master cultivator in this evil sword forest could not be considered a strong person. If he dared to run amok here, he would most likely have a trump card. It would be better to be on guard. Thinking about it, the youth suppressed the killing intent in his heart and revealed a smile. "Brat, I advise you not to play any tricks with me. You have been hit by my poison sword chi. All of the chi meridians in your body have been paralyzed. The profound chi has been greatly reduced. Although you have the cultivation of the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master, the strength you can display is probably not even at the 1st stage. If you really want to run, you won't be able to run far. I advise you to hand over the divine stone to me. Maybe I can spare your life." "You said so much. You just want this stone." Su Yun shook his head. "My goal in coming to the sword world is not this stone. It's better to have less trouble. If you really want it, I can give it to you, but before that, you have to answer a question of mine." The youth's expression froze. "What is the problem? What exactly is this stone?" Su-yin muttered to himself for a moment, and finally revealed the doubts in his heart. The youth was stunned. He looked at Su-yin in a daze, and after a long while, he laughed out loud. "It can't be. Ha ha ha. You even want to snatch what this thing is? Ha 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 ha. What should I say to you? Idiot? Idiot? Or retard? Ha 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 ha." After a long while, the youth finally stopped laughing, wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes, and said, all right, since you don't have any fate with this stone, I'll tell you. This stone is a divine stone. Rumor has it that it is a treasure that was peeled off from a divine robe, and has the unique property of eliminating other people's profound chi. It is said that as long as you embed this stone on your weapon, when you fight with someone, as long as your sword collides with the opponent, this stone will produce a strange power and directly devour a portion of the profound strength in the opponent's body. Regardless of whether you attack or the opponent attacks, as long as you touch it, the divine stone will immediately devour his cultivation. And it is said that as long as there are 7 or 8 times, all of the opponent's profound chi will be exhausted. At this point, the youth's eyes were filled with a strong fanaticism. "Do you know what this means, idiot? As long as you have this stone, you will be able to kill existences that are several times stronger than you. You will be able to challenge those with heaven-defying methods. You will be able to rob them and steal their treasures. You will be able to challenge those famous almighties." This was simply a treasure of the world. Frog at the bottom of a well. It's actually so magical. Su-yin was startled. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. The youth had just said that it fell from a divine robe. Divine robe? It couldn't be the clear sky, holy robe, right? "All right, kid. I've already told you what happened. Obediently give me the stone." The youth walked over with a sinister smile on his face. Seeing that, Su-yin picked up the stone on the ground and threw it at him. The youth immediately reached out to catch it. He looked at the stone carefully and realized that it was indeed a divine level stone. The malevolence and fanaticism on his face became even more intense. Got it. Ha-ha. I didn't waste this half a year. I got it, ha. His laughter almost resounded through the forest. After an unknown period of time, the laughter stopped. He turned around and stared coldly at Su-yin. "What do you want to do?" Just as Su-yin stood up, he felt a gaze filled with killing intent and could not help but ask, "This divine stone, who knows how many people covet it? Right now, who knows how many people in the entire Evil Sword Forest are still searching for its whereabouts? If those people knew that this stone was in my hands, wouldn't I be in endless trouble?" The youth laughed. "So you want to kill me?" "That's right. Didn't you promise me that you wouldn't kill me? I went back on my word. How can you be like this?" "Hey, I have an idea that can make those people not cause trouble for you." "What idea?" the youth hurriedly asked. Su-yin smiled slightly. "If you give the stone to me for safekeeping, won't those people not cause trouble for you?" As the sound of his voice faded, an iron fist suddenly smashed through countless thick and dense branches in the sky, fiercely attacking downwards. The sound of something tearing through the air rang out, dong. The earth trembled. Chapter 704. Dust flew into the air as a shockwave rippled out in all directions. The trees that were over 10 meters tall were all shattered by this brutal force. When the dust settled, there was a large hole in the ground. As for the youth, he had actually been smashed into the ground by the punch, leaving only his head exposed. The youth was confused by the attack. By the time he regained his senses, Su-yin had already rushed over to kill him. The death sword stirred up a dense devil chi and slashed down at him. The youth was shocked. He immediately leaped up, his body breaking out of the ground, overflowing with countless terrifying sword chi, fiercely shooting out in all directions. If it was a normal person, they would have been forced to retreat by his terrifying sword chi. But Su-yin did not have the slightest intention of retreating and swung his sword at the youth's neck. Clang! The youth panicked as he used the sharp sword in his hand to block Su-yin's black sword. He panted a few times and gritted his teeth. "Good boy, you actually dared to trick me. How can this be called shady?" Su-yin raised his head, and a strange smile surfaced on his pale face under the cloak. The youth felt that something was wrong. With a bang, the place where the death sword and the green sword clashed actually produced a strong explosion. The youth could not react in time and was sent flying again, but this time it was not as simple as being sent flying. A large amount of devil chi was still tearing at the youth's skin and flesh, but the youth's cultivation was not ordinary. The devil chi had only broken through his protective aura and then disappeared without a trace. Su Yun turned around and saw the youth crawling up from the ground in a sorry state. At the moment, Su Yun's entire body did not show any signs of being paralyzed. He looked at the youth as if nothing had happened, and behind him stood a terrifying devil-bone giant. The devil chi started to wreak havoc in all directions. "You're a devil cultivator?" Seeing Su Yun's eyes slowly turning blood red, the youth was slightly shocked. "The divine stone seems to be not bad. I'm going back on my word now and have decided to take it back," Su Yun said indifferently. "Huh, do you have the ability?" The youth said coldly. "It seems like you're not affected by my poison sword chi." "Ah, you have some ability, but so what? I do not believe that a mere 5th stage sky spirit master existence can defeat me. A 9th stage cultivator?" The young man bellowed. He raised his sword and rushed forward, releasing 7 sword strikes in the air, and every sword strike was wide open, every sword strike releasing surging poison gas. The poison gas was like a living creature, enveloping Su Yun, and then quickly gathered, completely corroding him. In the area enveloped by the poisonous gas, the trees rapidly withered, and the ground was reduced to granules. All living things were stripped away, and even water was evaporated. It was a terrifying scene. The poisonous gas was like the breath of the Grim Reaper. As long as you come into contact with even the slightest bit of poison gas, you'll definitely die. The young man stared at the poisonous gas and sneered. However, at this moment, a whisper suddenly came from behind. "If it's not touched, then it's fine, right?" The young man was shocked. He suddenly turned around, only to see a foot fiercely kicking his abdomen. The foot was wrapped with a thick, mysterious force that directly attacked his body, crazily shaking his internal organs and chi meridian. The young man's body spasmed a few times before he fell to the ground. Su Yun extended his hand and picked up the divine stone in the young man's hand. Looking at the young man who was trying his best to stand up, Su Yun could not help but shake his head. "9th stage of Sky Spirit Master? Your sword seems to be pretty good. If the poison gas really touches it, I'm afraid you will die, without a doubt. Your cultivation is not bad. The profound chi is very dense. It's just that your moves and movement technique are too weak. I'm guessing that your cultivation is also relying on profound coin to rush up, right?" As Su Yun spoke, he placed the divine stone into his storage ring, and at the same time, he raised the death sword and swung it at the young man without hesitation. "You are a potential threat. You cannot be left alive." As his voice fell, the death sword also descended. However, the youth did not resist. Instead, he revealed a strange smile. Bang! Suddenly, the youth's body exploded, and a large amount of dark green juice splattered in all directions. When the juice landed on the ground, it actually melted through the ground. Su Yun's nerves tensed up, and in a split second, he took out his imperial equipment. The chi cover was formed, and a large amount of juice smashed onto the chi cover. However, what was even more frightening was that the chi cover was being corroded by the juice and thinned out. Su Yun frowned even more. He could clearly feel the profound energy in his body being rapidly consumed. The corrosive power of the juice was simply unimaginably strong. He took a step back, and at the same time, he removed the chi cover. The front part of the juice landed on the ground, causing the ground to be filled with potholes. Each and every one of the bottomless holes was extremely terrifying. When he looked around again, he could no longer see the youth. Did he escape? Su Yun thought, but he did not dare to let down his guard. Although this person had relied on profound coin to raise his cultivation, his strength was not ordinary. If not for his speed, Su Yun would not have been able to suppress him easily. And now that he was hiding in the dark with Su Yun's cultivation, it would not be easy to find him. Su Yun's eyes rolled a few times. He removed the devil bone giant, turned, and quickly rushed into the forest. The exploded body must be a magic treasure or a clone, and the main body must have either escaped or hidden in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to take action. Most likely, that guy already knew that Su Yun's strength was not ordinary and was not easy to deal with, so he decided to use the underhanded method. Since he was a poison user, he must like this method. Su Yun did not urge the profound qi. His speed was not fast. He held onto the death sword, and as he ran, he carefully and vigilantly looked around. The surrounding forest was very quiet. There was not the slightest movement, but the opponent was in existence at the 9th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. His methods must be extremely brilliant. If he was careless, he would definitely be beheaded. However, after running for an entire 4 hours, he still did not see the youth make a move. Could it be that he really left and didn't follow me? Su Yun thought. Crack! Suddenly, a strange sound came from afar. Su Yun stopped in his tracks and activated the profound qi. However, he heard the weak voice quickly expand, and at the same time, a tyrannical profound qi also came pressing over. So fast, so strong, so fierce. Judging from the hurried footsteps and the terrifying profound qi, the other party was rushing towards him. However, the person who came was definitely not that young man. Su Yun flipped backwards, raised his hand, and formed a sword art. His pitch-black cloak fluttered, and 9 blazing swords shot out from the sword sheath behind him, and the death sword in his hand was replaced by the pale white tribulation fire sword. His finger changed a few times, and the tribulation fire sword danced. The subordinate swords quickly moved, transforming into a blazing sword formation in the air, like a furnace. The ground started to tremble. The man was already approaching. Su Yun's gaze was solemn. He stared at the man. It was a man with a body full of muscles and a face full of stubble. His face was twisted. He was dressed in rough clothes. His eyes were like a tiger and wolf, staring at Su Yun. His legs were running quickly. The shadow of his legs could not be seen, and the ground was being trampled by him. The most eye-catching thing was the wide and heavy gray greatsword in his hand. The sword was close to 2 meters long, thick and unsharpened, and a majestic and mighty lion was carved on the body of the sword. It was vivid and lifelike. However, such a seemingly heavy sword was being held by him with one hand. He opened his vicious eyes and roared as he rushed over. Hand over the divine stone and leave your corpse intact. With that said, he raised his sword and waved it at Su Yun. Dong! The sword smashed into the ground. The ground immediately split open, and a large number of protruding rocks shot out from the ground, straight towards Su Yun. The scene was as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. It was extremely shocking. Phoenix danced in the sky. Su Yun brandished the tribulation fire, his profound energy fluctuating. A sharp sword flew out from the burning heaven sword formation, transforming into a fire phoenix that swept towards the protruding rocks. The extremely high temperature of the fire phoenix forcibly melted all the protruding rocks, blocking this terrifying move. However, just as he was about to dissolve this move, the muscular man had already leaped over. He jumped high up, holding onto the greatsword with both hands. He slashed down towards Su Yun's head. At this moment, all of his strength was concentrated on the heavy greatsword in his hand, without reservation. The opponent's movements were fast. Su Yun had no way to retreat. He could only use both hands to block the tribulation fire. Dong! When the 2 swords collided, the ground beneath Su Yun's feet immediately crumbled. The entire evil sword forest trembled a bit. He felt as if there was a huge mountain pressing down on the tribulation fire sword. The impact seemed to be able to shatter a person's arms. What great power! Su Yun's face twisted slightly. All the profound energy in his body was activated, but he was actually not a match for his opponent. The hand that was supporting the heavy sword actually started to tremble. From the looks of it, this was a spirit cultivator who cultivated the true divine spirit qi. Although he used a sword, he used a strong sword. His cultivation was at least at the 6th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. Su Yun thought. His gaze suddenly swept across. Looking at the few flying swords in the air, his pair of blood-red eyes flickered. In an instant, The flying sword turned around and slashed towards the brawny man. The brawny man's face darkened. He roared and wanted to dodge. But Su Yun seized the opportunity and sent the tribulation fire in his hand directly into his body. Clang! The brawny man swept his sword horizontally, causing all the subordinate swords in the air to retreat, but his abdomen was also stabbed by the tribulation fire sword. The profound chi surged into his body like a flood, crazily stirring his internal organs. The victor had been decided? Do you think you can defeat me like this? Just then, he shouted and suddenly turned around. He actually completely ignored the tribulation fire sword's attack and continued to slash at Su Yun. It was as if he had forgotten the pain and the scars. It was as if he had an immortal body and only cared about attacking. Dong! Su Yun's shoulder was struck by the big sword. His feet sank down again. However, Su Yun also did not move. He didn't feel any pain. He raised his head, and his blood-red eyes were filled with madness and killing intent. The man's ferocious face finally revealed a trace of astonishment. Although the true divine spirit chi is strong, but the lethality is too weak, Su Yun said in a deep voice. Both of his hands held onto the tribulation fire tightly, and the profound energy he was using surged towards the tribulation fire sword. The power of the tribulation fire sword was drawn out, and the blazing temperature began to take effect. Ah! The burly man suddenly screamed in pain. His abdomen was a fiery red, and the flesh and blood there began to melt rapidly. In just a moment, his upper and lower body were directly melted, and the two halves of his body fell to the ground. Su Yun did not hold back at all. He raised his sword and chopped down. The man's head was chopped off. Chapter 705. The soul overflowed, and with a sweep of the sword, the blazing temperature completely swallowed the soul. A six-stage sky spirit master cultivator died. The heavy great sword landed on the ground, announcing the end of the battle. The profound strength that was rippling in the air also began to slowly dissipate, and everything returned to normal, like a clear sky after the rain stopped. Su Yun coughed a few times. He looked at his left shoulder, only to see that the protective profound chi had been scattered. His shoulder was completely caved in, and his bones were most likely broken. This kind of injury, to an ordinary spirit cultivator, would take at least a day or two to heal, but he had the Wanhua seed. His life force was extremely strong, and it would not take long for him to recover from these injuries. The battle with the big-sized man had consumed a lot of his physical strength and profound strength. Su Yun took out a pill from his storage ring and swallowed it. After that, he kept the subordinate sword and walked forward. The surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. The battle had ended, and everything seemed extremely strange. It was so strange that one could hear their own heartbeats. However, he had only taken a few steps when he stopped on his own accord. Come out, Su Yun said indifferently. As the sound of his voice faded, the silent surroundings finally began to emit a light sound. It was like the rustling sound of the wind blowing through the leaves. Hee, even if you didn't say it, I would have come out. It's about time. I don't need to hide anymore. And mocking laughter came out. Following that, a figure silently appeared about 10 meters in front of Su Yun. It was the youth who had disappeared. When did you find me? Just now, Su Yun said indifferently. I also just thought of it. I've never met this person before, but he has his eyes on me and attacked me without hesitation. Such decisiveness is simply unrealistic. I'm afraid someone is ordering him. And that person is most likely you. So I guess that he is just a chess piece that you used, and his goal is to use me to exhaust me, so that you can deal with me more easily. That's right. The youth grinned. I just told him who has the divine stone, where that person is, and this brainless guy rushed over like a madman. But what disappointed me was that this six-stage sky spirit master cultivator actually died after fighting with you for a few rounds. It's really useless, but luckily I managed to cause you some damage and not be called trash. As the young man spoke, he pulled out the emerald green sword from his waist and smiled at Su Yun. You must have consumed a lot of your profound energy in the battle with that fellow, right? The current you is much easier to deal with than before. With that, The young man walked towards Su Yun step by step. However, at this moment, Su Yun still did not panic. He slowly put away the tribulation fire sword and reached into the sword sheath at his waist to take out a similarly white but snow-white sword, Lotus Star sword. Your idea is indeed not bad. Temporarily avoid the attack. Use others to exhaust your opponent's strength, and then attack at the right time. Not bad. This way, not only can you kill me, you can also easily obtain the Divine Stone. However, there's one thing that is not perfect. If I were you, I would not obediently appear in front of my opponent like this. Instead, I would choose a suitable opportunity to launch a sneak attack from the shadows. This way, it would be easier to kill my opponent. Su Yun said, and also walked towards the young man. The snow-white, lustrous sword pointed at the ground, illuminating the pitch-black night. How many swords did this guy have? The young man could not help but glance at Su Yun's weapon, and then snorted. Deal with you? Do you still need a sneak attack? If word of this gets out, how will I be able to establish myself in the future? With that said, the youth leaped forward with a tap of his feet. He waved his hand in the air, and a burst of profound strength spread out in all directions like a torrent. Following that, the ground started to tremble, and the already fragmented ground started to change. The cracks started to spew out an endless amount of poisonous fog, filling the entire forest. This was impressively a poison chi domain. Su Yun held onto the flag with one hand, and the Lotus Star sword with the other, pressing against the poison as he approached the young man. The chi cover was corroded by the poison chi, and with every inch he advanced, the profound chi in his body would be consumed a lot. Adding to continuous battles, the profound chi in Su Yun's body was already less than half. The young man was not afraid at all. He swept his sword horizontally and attacked Su Yun head-on. Clang! The snow-white sword and the emerald-green sword clashed, releasing a crisp sound. The Lotus Star sword did not have any changes, but the emerald-green sword body released a strange green snake, following the Lotus Star sword and climbing towards Su Yun's body. When it met the chi cover, it was blocked by the chi cover, and the green snake opened its mouth and started to bite. With every bite, the profound strength in Su Yun's body started to tremble. No wonder you are so arrogant. So it turns out that you have such a magic treasure. This seems to be imperial equipment, right? To be able to withstand my attack, I'm afraid its grade is not low. After I snatch the Divine Stone, I will also kindly accept this treasure. The youth laughed as he leaped backwards. His fingers moved slightly, and in an instant, the poisonous gas in the area became stronger and stronger. The poisonous snake that was biting the chi cover also began to change, its body crazily growing in size, and in the blink of an eye, it had turned into a giant dragon. The giant dragon no longer crazily gnawed at it. Instead, it circled around the chi cover and used its brute force to crush it. The chi cover became more and more dangerous, and the consumption of Su Yun's profound chi became more and more intense. The situation of the battle was completely in the hands of the young man. Seeing that Su Yun was supporting the imperial equipment but was unable to retaliate, the smile on his face became more and more complacent. In the end, victory still belongs to me, the youth muttered to himself. Everything was within his expectations and control. There weren't many deviations, and this result gave him an indescribable joy in both his body and mind. However, but this joy suddenly stopped. His eyes slowly grew larger, and in the end, they widened to the extreme as he looked forward in shock. The person who was completely surrounded and devoured by the poisonous gas and the giant dragon was actually holding onto the imperial equipment and walking towards him step by step. The chi cover, which seemed to be getting thinner and thinner, could not be broken no matter what. The profound chi in this person's body seemed to be completely inexhaustible. No matter how much the giant dragon consumed, no matter how much the poisonous gas corroded, it was unable to see the bottom. Could a person at the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master have such a dense, profound chi? No, absolutely impossible. The youth was almost screaming hysterically in his heart. This time, I won't show mercy, Su Yun said in a low voice. The The youth gritted his teeth. His face was ferocious as he charged forward with his sword in hand. Clang! The chi cover once again blocked his sword edge. He held onto the emerald green sword with both hands, his arms trembling violently. The poison on the sword continued to corrode the chi cover, adding the giant dragon and the poisonous gas. Su Yun was currently being attacked from 3 sides. Suddenly, Su Yun's fingers that were holding onto the Imperial equipment loosened, causing the giant dragon's body and the young man's body to tremble at the same time. Even the poisonous gas in the air shook a little, and then the youth stopped moving. Like a statue, he stood in place in an instant, no longer moving, no longer driving, and no longer leaving. In that instant, time seemed to stop. Upon closer inspection, one could see that a thin line of blood had appeared on his neck. It was a sword mark made by the Lotus Star sword. The speed at which Su Yun activated the profound chi had already reached its limit. In the blink of an eye, he was able to cut back and forth 10 times to unleash the profound skill. He purposely held onto the few profound chi-s and approached the youth. His goal was to get close to him and let him take the initiative to attack the chi cover. The surroundings were filled with poisonous gas, and if he removed the Imperial equipment, he would not be able to survive in the poisonous gas for long. Even if he forcefully escaped from the area, he would still be caught by the youth and killed. Therefore, he could only deal with the youth quickly and catch him off guard. As a result, the moment the youth attacked the chi cover, he instantly removed the chi cover and instantly released his sword. He used the Lotus Star sword art to break the protective profound chi, then retracted his sword and instantly regenerated the Imperial equipment chi cover. These 4 actions were completed in a single thought, so fast that even the young man, who was at the 9th stage of the Sky Spirit Master, did not have time to react. Su Yun was fast, his attacks were not strong, but it had to be known that Su Yun had used up a large amount of profound chi by the Spirit Cultivator, and the young man's own profound strength was not sufficient either. Adding that the young man was constantly attacking, and Su Yun was the main defender, the young man would consume even more profound chi than Su Yun. This way, he would have the opportunity to take advantage of, but this kind of attack could only be sustained for 1 move. If he missed, the situation would be extremely dangerous. He supported his exhausted body and ran forward for a distance, far away from the poisonous gas. He found a big tree and jumped onto it, hiding in the dense treetops, and began to meditate. After going through so many battles, the spirit core was exhausted, and the chi meridian was even more dry. However, after killing this person, Su Yun felt that his perception had increased by a level. Thinking back to the young man's method of urging chi and fighting tactics, ripples surfaced in his heart. As he carefully recuperated, the spirit core underwent a change. This was a sign that he was about to break through. Sure enough, after sitting cross-legged for half a day, his body started to emit a brilliant light. The spirit core changed, and the strength of his body became even stronger. The accumulation of cultivation was like a fruit. When it absorbed enough nutrients, it would ripen, whether it was sitting cross-legged or fighting with others. It was the accumulation of cultivation, a type of experience, and often, when exchanging blows with Supreme Expert, one would obtain a lot of benefits, not only in terms of profound skill, but also in terms of knowledge. After breaking through and stepping into the 6th stage of the Sky Spirit Master, the profound strength and the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master had nearly doubled, but the most outstanding growth was not the profound strength, but the senses. At that moment, Su Yun realized that he could clearly see everything within 1,000 miles. Any movement in the wind, he could hear it, see it, and even the leaves on the leaves could be seen clearly. Su Yun exhaled. He took out a pill from his storage ring and consumed it. After recuperating for a while, he quickly walked out of the evil sword forest. After walking for a few hours, the sky had already brightened. The trees in front of him had gradually become sparse, and from the looks of it, it seemed that he was about to leave the evil sword forest. Just then, Su Yun suddenly slowed down his footsteps. 1,000 miles in front of him, a faint sound slowly floated up, and it was extremely noisy. There were people, and there were many of them. He carefully pulled out the death sword and slowly approached. He originally wanted to take a detour, but he felt that it was rather strange, because amongst these voices, Su Yun seemed to have heard a few strange shouts. "Waiter, serve the tea." Chapter 706. Could it be that there was a tea house in front? That's not right. How could there be a tea house in the evil sword forest? Filled with suspicions, Su Yun carefully moved forward. After walking for less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, he could already see the tea house. It was a tea house located at the exit of the evil sword forest. It was all made of wood, without any enchantments or array formations. It was a wooden house, a few cloth sails, and a few tables. It was very simple and crude, but the people drinking tea at the table were all fierce-looking spirit cultivator with extremely strong cultivations. They gathered together in twos and threes, chatting loudly and freely. Su Yun's position was already within their range of detection, so Su Yun had naturally been discovered by them a long time ago. It was just that these people only casually glanced at Su Yun and did not care about him, not revealing any killing intent or hostility. From the looks of it, this was indeed a tea house. Su Yun thought. He looked at the waiter who was busy, thought for a while, then walked forward, planning to pass through the tea house and leave the evil sword forest. Customer, you've worked hard. Why don't you come in for a cup of tea?" When the waiter saw Su Yun passing by, he immediately ran over, nodded and bowed with a smile. Su Yun waved his hand, intending to reject. "I wonder who'll get the clear sky holy robe this time. I reckon that all the geniuses on the heroic sword list will definitely come. This competition will definitely be worth watching." Just at this moment, a sentence unintentionally floated over from the other side of the table. Hearing that, Su Yun's waving hand immediately froze. "Clear sky, holy robe?" These four words were like four sparks that ignited his heart. He turned his head and said, "Give me a bowl of your best tea." After saying that, he walked to an empty table and sat down. All right, customer, please wait a moment." The waiter grinned from ear to ear and ran away. The people around him were still chatting, but the small tea house was very lively. He secretly looked at the table over there, only to see 3 people sitting there, 2 men and 1 woman. One of them was a young-looking spirit cultivator who was talking with confidence and composure, while the other 2 were listening attentively, not interrupting him. The clear sky holy robe is a treasure left behind by the ancient immortal god, Great Emperor Haoyin. With this, even if it is a spirit master existence, it would be able to contend against a sky spirit master existence. It is said that no profound energy under the heavens can break through this divine object. If we are lucky enough to obtain it, then it can be said that we can roam the world as we please, and no one could do anything to us. Such a treasure, we can't just watch as it gets snatched away by someone else. We must participate. That's right. Even if I can't obtain the clear sky holy robe from this trip to the mighty Sword Valley, I have to at least gain a good reputation. Big Brother is right, but there's one thing that I don't understand. The female spirit cultivator thought for a while, then asked, since the mighty Sword Valley has such a treasure, why didn't they keep it for themselves? Instead, they held a hero's sword discourse and used it as a prize for the sword discourse swordmaster. What? Doesn't he want it? Little sister's question is on point. Not to mention what you think, I guess that many people who are heading to the mighty Sword Valley think the same. However, there is one thing that you all might not know, and that is that the current clear sky holy robe is not complete. The 2 spirit cultivator S stared with wide eyes. Incomplete. The spirit cultivator S on the surrounding tables also purposely lowered their voices, and all of them pricked up their ears to listen. The young spirit cultivator who spoke did not hide anything and laughed. It is said that a few days ago, the mighty Sword Valley was attacked by enemies, and the clear sky holy robe that the mighty Sword Valley had kept for all these years was plundered. The 2 sides fought for 7 days and 7 nights, and the mighty Sword Valley suffered extremely serious damage. The son of the mighty Sword Valley's Valley Master, Wei Qin Xiu, also died miserably in this unforeseen event. What? As soon as he said this, the surroundings burst into cheers. Seeing the intense reaction of the people around him, The young man laughed out loud. Everyone, don't worry. This is not a very serious damage. Rather than saying that it is destroyed, it would be better to say that it is incomplete. It is said that a part of the clear sky holy robe is missing, and its power is greatly reduced. Because of this, the mighty Sword Valley Master decided to hold a hero's sword discourse. He wanted to hand over the clear sky holy robe to a hero who could take on great responsibility and at the same time to avoid disaster. All these years, it could be said that the mighty Sword Valley has been guarding against thieves and thieves day and night, carefully protecting the Saint Robe. For the sake of this Saint Robe, who knows how many people have died in the mighty Sword Valley, but this time, even the son of the Valley Master has died. It is not strange that the mighty Sword Valley Master would do such a thing. In that case, it's useless for us to have this Saint Robe. It's a defective product. Why would we want it? A brawny man at the side could not help but interrupt. When the young man heard this, he shook his head and laughed. If you think like this, it can only be said that your knowledge is too shallow. Hey, what do you mean? The big man was enraged. What else could it mean? If you obtain the Saint Robe, you can naturally search for the missing parts of the Saint Robe. If you gather all of them, wouldn't you also have a complete Saint Robe? If you don't fight for it and let others obtain it, then you will never be able to possess this Saint Robe. Moreover, even if the Saint Robe is missing a part, its power is still unquestionable. It was also equivalent to a powerful first-grade Imperial equipment. Tell me, should we take this Saint Robe or not? The young man looked around. Everyone fell silent. Sir, your tea. At this time, the waiter brought over a cup of green and blue tea. The tea was fragrant and fragrant. Su Yun sang lightly, his mind still thinking about the matters of the mighty Sword Valley. A hero discussing the sword? Was the mighty Sword Valley Lord already afraid of the calamity brought about by the Saint Robe? But if that was the case, why would he hold such a sword discussion? Wouldn't it be easier to just give it away? There must be a purpose for him to go through so much trouble. Perhaps it wasn't that simple. It was also possible that the mighty Sword Valley Lord had purposely held such a hero's sword discussion to lure out the person who had seized the Saint Robe. But no matter what, Su Yun had to participate in this hero's sword discourse. His goal in going to the sword world was the clear sky holy robe. Even if he had to use any means, he had to snatch it. After drinking the tea and paying, Su Yun stood up and headed towards the mighty Sword Valley. It was said that the mighty Sword Valley was right behind these 3 mountain ranges. If one were to advance at full speed, they would be able to reach it in 5 days. Outside the bright starry sky, a river that seemed to be made of silver water slowly flowed through the boundless universe. The silver water shone brightly and was especially dazzling. Even the bright stars around it could not take away its luster. At the end of the silver water was an incomparably huge palace. The silver water flowed past the palace and converged at the back of the palace. It gathered together like an ocean. This was the famous Eastern Emperor Island. It was a magical place that fell from the sky. The dazzling gold-rimmed door slowly opened, and a tall figure walked out from inside. His figure stood at the side of the Milky Way, quietly staring at the silver water, deep in thought. Sky Sovereign, a spirit cultivator, appeared at the side. He knelt down on one knee and said respectfully, "How is Sword Ancestor?" The Eastern Emperor Heavenly Sovereign asked indifferently with his hands behind his back. There is no longer any information about Sword Ancestor in the Wanhua realm. Based on my initial judgment, he should have already left the Wanhua realm. What about the other Sword Ancestor souls? Is there no news at all? Ultimate Martial World has some clues, but I can't confirm if that is Sword Ancestor's soul. Hearing that, the Eastern Emperor Heavenly Sovereign thought for a moment, then said indifferently, "Send more people to investigate. Once you find out that it is Sword Ancestor's soul, immediately inform me. This time, we can't let Sword Ancestor escape." "Yes, sir. We must kill him before the Sword Ancestor's soul is gathered. Otherwise, we will never have a day of peace. No one can save us either." The Eastern Emperor Heavenly Sovereign's brows were filled with seriousness. "Yes, Sky Sovereign." The man nodded. "All right, How is the matter I told you last time? The Eastern Emperor, heavenly sovereign, seemed to have thought of something and asked solemnly. This subordinate has already seriously investigated. That person's surname is Su Yun, and he is someone who came from the Sky Martial Continent. For some reason, he became a disciple of the Sword Ancestor and obtained the inheritance of the limitless sword arts. It is said that he is entrenched in the first generation of the Beiyang, but he himself does not often go in and out of the Beiyang, but rather enter and exit the true Devil Realm. True Devil Realm. The Eastern Emperor, heavenly sovereign, turned around and looked at him. Why would he go to the Devil Cultivator's territory alone? I heard that he is a member of the True Devil Sect. True Devil Sect? When I fought with him, I did indeed feel a very strong devil chi. I never thought that he would actually enter the True Devil Sect again. He can be considered an interesting person. This person's whereabouts have always been strange. We have always wanted to keep an eye on him. But he went to the Wanhua realm and has yet to come out. The Wanhua realm has been sealed, and his relationship with the Realm Master is very good, so he can freely enter and exit. Not only has this person received the recognition of the Sword Ancestor, he has also received the favor of the Wanhua Realm Master. And now that he is a member of the True Devil Sect, he has truly benefited from both sides. What is even more infuriating is that his cultivation place is actually located in the Beiyang. So it seems that the 100 Meetings Alliance in the Beiyang is more or less related to him. No wonder he dares to make me his enemy. Sky Sovereign, don't worry. With the strength of my Eastern Emperor Island, killing this person is as easy as flipping my hand. The man hurriedly said, if it was as easy as flipping my hand, how could I have been defeated by him? The Eastern Emperor, heavenly sovereign, said indifferently, victory is victory. Defeat is defeat. There is no need to find an excuse for your failure. What you should be looking for is a reason to work hard to cultivate. In this world, credit and honor are only in the hands of the victor, and the victor does not need excuses or reasons, but powerful strength. Do you understand? This subordinate will remember, send some people to guard the entrance of the Wanhua realm. If Su Yin leaves the Wanhua realm, quickly inform me. If he does not get rid of him, he will be a scourge. The Sword Ancestor is difficult to erase. The Eastern Emperor, heavenly sovereign, said solemnly. Yes, sir. Chapter 707. Luoyang Town. The only way to the mighty Sword Valley was to pass through a bustling town under the protection of the Luoyang sect. The people of the Sword World were bloodthirsty and warlike. Even in the surroundings of such a town, there were still many battles, and there were also battles within the town. Even the guards of the town could not stop the spirit cultivatoress who were determined to fight. They could only watch and not meddle in other people's business. There are many corpses on the road outside Luoyang Town, some old and some new. Most of them have been bitten to the point of being unrecognizable by the nearby fierce beasts, and the ground was also full of potholes, extremely uneven. When Su Yin walked towards Luoyang Town, the 2 men and 1 woman he met at the tea house outside the Evil Sword Forest were also walking towards him. Along the way, he could see many spirit cultivators, and Luoyang Town usually did not have so many people gathered there. From this, it could be seen that these people were all here for the Mighty Sword Valley's Heroes Sword Discourse. It was said that the Heroes Sword Discourse would be held in 10 days. From here to the Mighty Sword Valley, it would take 5 days to get there, so there was no rush. Su Yin wandered around Luoyang Town and went to the tavern in town to see if he could get any useful information. The tavern and tea house had always been a gathering place for the spirit cultivator. People did not have high requirements for food, but this wine was the eternal theme. Drunken Lair was the largest tavern in Luoyang Town. The interior of the tavern was not luxurious, but rather simple. Moreover, the entrance was tattered, making it look a little shabby. However, this tavern was as crowded as a marketplace, with a sea of people, and was bustling with activity. Su Yin walked in by himself, and the 2 men and 1 woman from before also entered. Sir, are you alone? What wine do you need? The wine in this shop is all divine wine. Not only can drinking it raise one's cultivation, it can also clear one's mind, strengthen one's tendons, strengthen one's profound chi, and so on. There are so many benefits. A waiter ran over and boasted Su Yin. Su Yin understood this. Previously at the tea house, the tea he drank only accelerated the recovery of the profound qi. Other than that, it had no other use, and it was extremely expensive, costing him tens of thousands of profound coin. This time, he was not fooled and casually ordered a pot of wine and drank by himself. Although it did not increase his cultivation by much, the taste of the wine was indeed very intoxicating. The fragrance of the wine rippled inside and outside the tavern, leaving an endless aftertaste. Plop! At this moment, a muffled sound came from the entrance of the tavern. A man who was over 2 meters tall and had a body like a bear walked in with a huge sword on his back. The man had a bald head, a stocky build, and a fierce-looking face. His profound energy was so strong that it was suffocating. The moment he appeared, the noisy tavern immediately fell silent. Pairs of eyes involuntarily gathered on him. The entrance of this person caused the originally relaxed and cheerful tavern to become somewhat solemn. The waiter was a little confused, but he had seen this kind of situation many times, so he hurriedly rushed to the back hall to look for the shopkeeper. It was obvious that he had come with ill intentions. Otherwise, he would not have released such a powerful, profound energy. The man's eyes swept across the tavern. Then he took heavy steps and arrived in front of the table. There were only 2 people sitting at the table, a man and a woman. The man was dressed in a colorful blade master robe with a feathered crown on his head. He had a noble temperament, like a young master, but he did not carry a sword. There was only an emerald green desolator on the table, and he was drinking by himself. Sitting opposite him was a young lady with delicate features, red lips, and white teeth. The lady was dressed in pink, and her skin was fair. She did not drink, and only sat there obediently, quietly watching the man in front of her drink. Beside her, there was a red paper fan leaning against the chair. One person, one umbrella. It was extremely harmonious and natural. Seeing the burly man arrive, the man's hand that was about to raise the cup to his mouth suddenly froze. I don't like to be disturbed when I'm drinking. The man said indifferently, then drank the wine in his cup in one gulp and poured it again. Unexpectedly, before he could fill the cup, the burly man had already extended his hand over, grabbed the man's wine pot, and slammed it onto the table. Clang! The iron palm instantly shattered the wine pot and the table into pieces. The things on the table were scattered all over the ground, including the man's desolateur. The entire tavern was silent. Everyone turned their heads to look at this scene. This time, no one said anything, and the atmosphere was rather solemn. The burly man stepped on the stool beside him, looked at the man with a sinister face, and growled, "You are Lu Xiao, ranked 17th on the heroic sword list, right? My name is Zhong Kuang. My fighting strength is 90,000, and I am at the 7th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. I heard that in this year's hero competition, the experts of the heroic sword list can directly take a look at the clear sky holy robe. My heart is itching. I want to see my treasure earlier. As long as I defeat you, I can obtain the throne of the 17th rank of the heroic sword list. Seeing what my treasure looks like, I can also borrow you to spread my name, Zhong Kuang. So, Lu Xiao, make your move. I will beat you to the ground here." With that, the man took off the great sword on his back and stabbed it into the ground. Dong! The entire tavern trembled. The heavy sword smashed the ground into pieces. Some of the fellows who didn't sit properly were thrown off their chairs. They were in a sorry state, and the scene was rather chaotic. The man called Lu Xiao raised his sword eyes and glanced at the extremely arrogant man in front of him. However, he was not angry at all and said indifferently, "Your name is Zhong Kuang? That's right. I think you should change your name to Zhong Sha." Lu Xiao reached out to pick up the desolator on the ground and patted the dust off it. "Moreover, we can't fight. Stinking brat, you dare to look down on me." Zhong Kuang was immediately enraged and directly extended his hand to grab Lu Xiao. However, before his hand could even touch Lu Xiao, a silent force suddenly shot out from the back hall door and directly struck Zhong Kuang's majestic body. His body quickly cracked, and like a collapsing mountain, he quickly collapsed. In just a few seconds, Zhong Kuang's entire body died, and his soul overflowed. One move to kill. Seeing this scene, the surrounding customers were all shocked. One by one, they stood up in panic, and some of them had already escaped from the tavern. Su Yun's face congealed. He immediately looked towards the back hall of the tavern, only to hear a cold shout coming from the back hall. What kind of cat or dog dares to cause trouble here? Don't you know how to read the rules on the wall of this shop? I don't care who you are. Outside the shop, I don't care if you kill until the sky is dark, but inside the shop, if you dare to cause trouble and fight, you will not be let off lightly. A cold voice rang out, and a slightly plump middle-aged man, accompanied by two waiters, walked out. Although this person was slightly plump, his expression was extremely serious. His hair was slightly white, and his eyes were deep and dignified. As soon as he appeared, the people present immediately started whispering to each other. Is this the shopkeeper of Drunken Fragrance? I never thought that the shopkeeper would finally show himself. So strong. I've heard that this shopkeeper has been hiding his strength, but today I've finally seen it for myself. Yeah, it's a good thing those guys who are quarreling here didn't make a move otherwise. TSK, TSK, TSK. The scene was boiling. Su Yun quietly sized up the shopkeeper and realized that his qi was stable, like an ancient well, incomparably deep and difficult to see the bottom. He was afraid that even if his cultivation was not at the level of the Spirit Emperor, he was close. Laifu, go clean up, the shopkeeper said in a deep voice. Yes, shopkeeper, a waiter said, and then ran to clean up the burly man's dismembered corpse. Everyone, please continue drinking. I hope that all of you will have a good time in this shop. The shopkeeper threw down these words indifferently and did not say anything else. He turned around and was about to leave. Shopkeeper, I was frightened in your shop. Shouldn't you compensate me? Just then Lu Xiao, who was sitting at the side, suddenly spoke. His voice was clear and bright, and everyone in the tavern could hear him clearly. The shopkeeper, who was about to leave, immediately stopped in his tracks. Shock was written all over everyone's faces. The shopkeeper had only used one move to kill Zhong Kuang. Although it was only one move, it was enough to declare his powerful strength to the crowd. Who wouldn't be afraid of such a strong expert? But this Lu Xiao did not know the immensity of heaven and earth to actually say such words. What was he going to do? The woman gently stood up and took out a pink scarf from the inside of her waist. She raised her slender hands and wiped the sawdust off Lu Xiao's face. Sir, it is not our wish for such a thing to happen. How about this? Our guests' wine money. How about it? The shopkeeper said indifferently. In fact, this kind of thing was extremely common in the sword world. The people of the sword world loved to fight, and there would be challenges everywhere. However, Lu Xiao did not seem to buy it. He sized up the desolator in his hand and said indifferently, I do not lack this bit of wine money. The shopkeeper's eyebrows slightly twitched. What do you want, sir? I heard that Drunken Fragrance shopkeeper's drunken sword is unstoppable in the world. This time, I am going to the mighty Sword Valley for the sake of the hero's sword. But after passing through here, I can't help but ask the shopkeeper for advice and experience the rumored might of the drunken sword. I hope that the shopkeeper can fulfill this small wish of mine. Lu Xiao said indifferently, but as he spoke, he did not even look at the shopkeeper. The atmosphere in the tavern became heavy. Some people saw that the situation was not good and immediately left, leaving behind a portion of them to watch the show. It seemed that Lu Xiao did not come here to drink for no reason, but for the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper was silent for a moment, then walked over. He stood in front of Lu Xiao and the lady, Qin Hong San, sized them up, and then said indifferently, I've already sealed my sword. If the two of you are here to drink, I welcome you at any time. If the two of you are here to compete in swords, I'm afraid you have come to the wrong place. With that, the shopkeeper gestured for them to leave and said indifferently, You two, please leave. This shop will not do business with you two today. Lu Xiao did not say anything and quietly looked at the desolator in his hand. No one knew what he was thinking, but everyone in the tavern could see that his hand which was caressing the Desolar, had already started to tighten. Waves of killing intent rose. The shopkeeper obviously noticed the change in Lu Xiao, and his face froze. A faint light flashed past. Lu Xiao made his move. Chapter 708. Su Yun's line of sight enlarged as he stared at Lu Xiao. He suddenly grabbed onto the Desolator and pulled it out. He actually pulled out an extremely thin sword from the Desolator. The moment the sword was unsheathed, it went straight for the head of the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper's movements were quick and sharp. He bent his upper body backwards and directly dodged Xiao Jian's attack. Following that, he released a profound qi, forcing Qin Hong San and Lu Xiao, who were beside him, to retreat a few meters. The two of them jumped back a few meters, and the surroundings of the tavern were also shattered by the shopkeeper's profound qi, causing the already dilapidated tavern to become a mess. Su Yun took the wine jug and ran out of the tavern. He found an empty space and drank while watching the two of them fight. There were many people like him who joined in the fun, and none of them paid for the wine. They just took the wine jug and drank by themselves, looking very satisfied. Lu Xiao and the shopkeeper rushed out of the tavern and started fighting on the street. Passers-by would occasionally stop to watch the battle, but those who had matters to attend to would leave. There were no guards to stop them, and no one was surprised. It was as if everything was a normal phenomenon. Seeing that, Su Yun felt that the sword world was truly a valiant place. The shopkeeper pulled out the belt on his waist and pulled it off. It spun around in his hand and shone brightly. It was a soft sword. Lu Xiao's sword was like a poisonous bee, ruthless and sharp. He was not like the other spirit cultivators who used swords, cutting, chopping, hacking, and stabbing. He only used one move, stab. He did not make a move easily and was always dodging around the shopkeeper, looking for an opportunity. But once he made a move, the sword would shake the heavens and the earth, and the profound qi on Xiao Jian would be released as well, smashing straight into the ground. Like a meteor falling, it was extremely terrifying. The entire street had been smashed into smithereens by Lu Xiao. It was a complete mess. However, although Lu Xiao's attacks were swift and fierce, he was unable to touch the shopkeeper in the slightest. At this moment, his body was like the whip-like sword in his hand, swaying left and right, slippery like a loach. No matter how terrifying Lu Xiao's attack was, he was able to avoid it without any danger. Every time the sword was about to pierce through his body, he would always intentionally or unintentionally dodge to the side. Looking at the shopkeeper's expression, he was calm, without the slightest bit of panic. His steps were messy but orderly, unorganized but not panicked, like a drunk person but not like one. It was really strange. At this point, everyone knew that the shopkeeper's cultivation was probably a level higher than Lu Xiao's. Poochie! Suddenly, a crisp sound rang out. 2 sword marks suddenly appeared on Lu Xiao's shoulders. Then, 2 streaks of sword qi slashed at his shoulders. The brilliant sword intent rippled like a flood, forcing everyone on the street to retreat. Lu Xiao's expression became solemn. He immediately took half a step back. The profound energy in his body was activated. The treasure robe on his body immediately reacted. A circle of light erupted from the clothes. The sword qi that was cutting towards him hit the treasure robe, immediately rippling and dispersing, completely blocked. Imperial equipment. From the looks of it, it's probably not low. The scene was in an uproar. The drunken sword truly lives up to its name. This movement technique and the trajectory of the sword are simply impossible to guard against. However, that Lu Xiao is not an ordinary person either. I can see that most of the magic treasure on his body are extraordinary treasures. That's right. Although Lu Xiao's cultivation is not as good as the shopkeeper's, this magic treasure might be able to make up for the difference. Everyone was discussing. Drunken sword Xiao Jian? Su Yun's eyes were like torches. He carefully watched the battle between Lu Xiao and the shopkeeper. The battle between the two of them was not considered huge. Neither of them used any terrifying moves that could destroy a mountain or evaporate the sea in anger. Instead, they used their moves against each other. The shopkeeper was extremely conservative, focusing on defense, while Lu Xiao continued to attack. However, the shopkeeper and Lu Xiao were not blindly defending and attacking. Lu Xiao continued to circle around the shopkeeper. His speed was extremely fast, to the point where even his afterimages could not be seen. One could only see a burst of strong wind rippling from the other side. Every time he detected a flaw, he would stab forward with his sword. Xiao Jin carried an aura that could destroy the heavens and the earth. However, the shopkeeper easily dodged, and every time he successfully dodged Lu Xiao's attack, the shopkeeper would retaliate with a sword strike. If not for the fact that the imperial equipment on Lu Xiao's body was not of a low grade, he would have died long ago. Neither of them were injured, but Lu Xiao's profound qi consumption was far greater than the shopkeeper's. It was obvious who was stronger and who was weaker. If this goes on, Lu Xiao will definitely lose. He's even ranked 17th on the heroic sword list. Could it be that he only has this much ability? This is too disappointing. You can't say that. This shopkeeper was also an all-powerful figure back then. Haven't you heard of Drunken Sword Kuei? That's also a member of the heroic sword list, but after Drunken Sword was defeated and retired, no one knew about it. Many people thought that he was dead, but who would have thought that he would actually run here and open a tavern? Oh, he's Kuei. Bang! Suddenly, an explosion sounded out in the middle of the two fighting. The shopkeeper, Kuei, was sent flying backwards. His body was engulfed by a series of vacuum explosions in the air, and when he fell to the ground, the profound qi in his body was completely shattered. What's going on? Everyone exclaimed. Their eyes had been staring at the two of them, but when Kuei was suddenly attacked, they did not notice how Lu Xiao attacked. Only Su Yun had a look of disgust and disdain in his eyes. He did not look at Lu Xiao and Kuei, but focused his attention on the woman standing not far away from them, Qin Hong San. Under the drunken sword of the shopkeeper, Lu Xiao could not do anything to him. As time passed, not only did Lu Xiao's profound qi consumption increase, Kuei also gradually grasped Lu Xiao's sword moves. If this continued, Lu Xiao would not be able to do anything to Kuei. As for Kuei, he would gradually increase the distance between the two of them, slowly gaining the upper hand, killing Lu Xiao and winning this duel. The difference between Lu Xiao and Kuei's sword skills and fighting techniques was not just a little bit. Even if he was calm now, it was impossible for him to defeat Kuei. Therefore, Qin Hong San made his move. Her attack was extremely secretive, so secretive that almost everyone present, including Su Yun, did not know that she had made her move. However, there was one thing that allowed Su Yun to know that she had already made her move. That was two sword scars that appeared on Kuei's body. These sword marks were not made by stabbing, but by cutting. Although the profound qi was very similar to Lu Xiao's, it was not Lu Xiao's move. It was impossible for Lu Xiao to cut out these two sword scars, and he did not have the chance either. Su Yun stared at Qin Hong San, only to see that the pink paper fan had already been opened, and the handle of the umbrella was slightly opened, revealing a cold light, and bits of killing intent filled the air. She stood quietly at the side, holding onto her paper fan as she looked at Kuei. Her eyes were as deep as two wells. Manager Kuei hurriedly stood up. He turned his head to look at Qin Hong San, frowning. It was likely that he had also sensed Qin Hong San's attack, but the surrounding onlookers all thought that this move was done by Lu Xiao. What do you mean by this? Manager Kuei said in a low voice. However, Lu Xiao and Qin Hong San did not have any intention of explaining. Lu Xiao raised his sword and attacked again. It was extremely forceful and did not give Kuei a chance to catch his breath. With this imperial equipment, it would be extremely difficult for Manager Kuei to kill Lu Xiao with just the drunken sword, and if he could not kill Lu Xiao with Qin Hong San helping him from the side, he would definitely lose. Kuei relied on the illusory and formless drunken sword to dodge and attack, but after a few sword strikes, he was unable to break through, and on the contrary, Lu Xiao took the opportunity to strike his waist, causing a large piece of meat to disappear from the profound qi. He staggered backwards, blood spilling all over the ground. He was in a sorry state. Seeing that, a strange smile appeared on Lu Xiao's face. Sword World's duels are usually one-on-one. No one is allowed to interfere. Once they find out who interferes with the duel, they will be killed. Manager Kuei said in a deep voice. However, the world doesn't know that we are 2 against 1. Lu Xiao lowered his voice and laughed softly. His voice was so soft that only the 2 of them could hear him. Hearing that, the shopkeeper snorted. Has the heroic sword list fallen? Even people like you can be ranked on the heroic sword list. Cut the crap. If I kill you, my fighting strength will be ranked even higher in the sword world, and the benefits will be endless. Isn't the fighting in the sword world done by all means? With that said, Lu Xiao stabbed forward with Xiao Jian again. The dark green Xiao Jian was like a swaying, venomous snake, cold and swift. He had always thought that although the people of the sword world loved to fight and kill, they would at least adhere to their principles and abide by the way of the sword. From the looks of it today, that was not the case. Qin Hong San was ranked 18th on the heroic sword list. Kuei's drunken sword was naturally not afraid of Lu Xiao, but against these 2, he had no chance of winning. With Qin Hong San's help from the side, Lu Xiao gained the upper hand. Kuei knew that if this continued, he would definitely die. He turned his head and stared at the 2 waiters standing at the entrance of the inn and shouted in a low voice, Lai Fu, Lai Shi, quickly attack and kill Lu Xiao with me. When the 2 waiters heard this, they did not move. Instead, their faces were filled with hesitation. Shopkeeper, this is an open and above-board duel. If this lowly one were to make a move, according to the rules of the sword world, this lowly one would probably be killed on the spot by the others. This lowly one doesn't dare. They have already broken the rules. What are you afraid of? But what do they break it? Lai Fu was puzzled. Seeing this, the shopkeeper frowned. He knew that it was impossible to ask for help. The only thing he could do now was to preserve his life. Immediately, the shopkeeper turned around, wanting to escape to avoid fighting with Lu Xiao. But this escape of his had truly violated the rules of the sword world's fighting. Once the 2 of them fought, they would not rest until one of them died. Anyone who escaped would be regarded as a defeated enemy and could be killed at will. In an instant, Qin Hong San made his move. She and Lu Xiao, one on the left and one on the right, closed in on the shopkeeper. The pink umbrella opened up in the air, and a gust of wind swept out from within. The handle of the umbrella exploded with a cold aura, and an umbrella sword that was even thinner than Xiao Jian was taken out. Like a cold phoenix spreading its wings, it swept towards Kuei. Kuei was injured. Sensing Qin Hong San's sudden attack, his expression changed drastically. He wanted to urge his magic treasure to block, but the cold qi attacked. His body quickly condensed into a layer of frost, and in a moment, his wife turned into an ice sculpture and fell to the ground. When it touched the ground, the coldness on the ice sculpture even covered the entire street with frost. Qin Hong San rushed over, and with a slash of his sword, Manager Kuei's ice sculpture immediately shattered into pieces, scattering all over the ground. The scene was in an uproar. Chapter 709. Lu Xiao was ranked 17th on the heroic sword list, and Qin Hong San was ranked 18th. Logically speaking, Qin Hong San's strength should be far lower than Lu Xiao's, but from Su Yan's point of view, there was a mistake in the rankings. Although Qin Hong San had only used 2 moves, from these 2 moves, her strength was much higher than Lu Xiao's. If Qin Hong San were to fight with the shopkeeper, Kuei would not be a match for Qin Hong San. As soon as Kuei died, the lively scene immediately quietened down. Everyone started to leave. No one was sad for Kuei's death, and no one exclaimed in surprise. Regarding this, everyone thought that it was extremely normal. Dying in a duel was the most common thing in the sword world. Despicable. 2 against 1. You really don't deserve to be a swordsman. Just as Su Yan was about to leave, an indignant voice came from the side. Su Yan looked over. It was the 2 men and 1 woman. The one who spoke was the woman. Meng Qian, lower your voice. Don't let that Lu Xiao hear you. Although they are fighting 2 against 1, their strength is not simple. We are definitely not their match. The young man, Zhongbai, said in a low voice. I don't think they're here to challenge us at all. They're here to see Manager Kuei's drunken swordsmanship, Lu Gu said indignantly. So what? We can't change anything. No matter what, these two people must be careful. If they're also here to participate in the hero tournament, then we will be in trouble. Zhong Bai's face was filled with worry. What are you afraid of? If they also come to spar, I'll let them have a taste of the prowess of my 30,000 caddies sword art. Lu Gu snorted. Don't underestimate him. He is after all an expert on the heroic sword list. No matter what methods he uses, no one will be able to restrain him. Just this imperial equipment alone is not something we can easily deal with. Zhong Bai whispered. Lu Gu snorted and didn't say anything else. The three continued on their way. The Drunken Fragrance Tavern had also become deserted because of Kuei's death. In the sword world, no one would care about the death of a duel, and the victor would not be punished. This was the rule here, unless you rejected the duel from the very beginning. What happened in the small town also gave Su Yun a new view of the sword world. This world was far crueler than the ultimate martial world. After finishing the wine in the pot, Su Yun continued on his journey. When they left the town, they saw the people who came out of the tavern. Everyone was walking on the same path, heading in the same direction. It was just that everyone intentionally kept their distance from each other and guarded against each other. If they were from the same direction, then their goals would be the same. In this way, they were all competitors. Su Yun slowly took out the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword from the sword sheath and flew at a low altitude, his eyes constantly observing his surroundings. The closest group to him was a small group, about 2 kilometers away, with 5 people, but they were whispering to each other and did not notice him. After walking for 2 hours, they could already see corpses that had just died not long ago. Traces of fighting were all over the road, and there were even some spirit cultivator fighting. People avoided them as much as they could and did not linger. After advancing for another hour, they arrived at a mountaintop. All the spirit cultivators that were heading towards the mighty Sword Valley stopped. At that moment, there were many spirit cultivators standing on top of the mountain. All of them were dressed in the same light blue robes, with swords hanging from their waists. Looking over, there were close to 1,000 people. All of them were at least at the first stage of the Sky Spirit Master. Seeing this formation that was like an army, all the spirit cultivators that were rushing over stopped in their tracks and looked into the distance. Su Yun also felt that something was amiss. He immediately stopped in his tracks and scurried to the front of a large boulder, looking over. Lu Xiao and Qin Hong San, who were walking the fastest, were already heading towards the top of the mountain. The people on the mountain noticed that something was amiss and immediately gathered together. When the two of them approached, these people actually pulled out their swords without any explanation and pointed them at the two of them. Which sect are you from? Lu Xiao raised his head, glanced at these people, and said indifferently, We are from the barbarian Quicksand. A man with bare arms and a bald head walked out from the crowd. He was only wearing a pair of light blue pants, revealing his muscular body. In his hand was a long sword that looked like the sharp teeth of a fierce tiger. And the most eye-catching thing was that his right eye was tightly shut. A sword mark ran from his upper eyelid to his lower eyelid, and a strange light leaked out from the crack of his eye, as if he was blind in this eye, and for some reason, he was unable to report back. When Lu Xiao saw who it was, he immediately laughed. I was wondering who it was, so it's the one-eyed barbarian sword of Man Lu Xia. Sorry. With that, he cupped his fists. The one-eyed barbarian sword returned the greeting expressionlessly and said in a rough voice, Who are you? I am Lu Xiao, and this is my dual cultivation partner, Qin Hong San. Lu Xiao said. Oh, Lu Xiao, Qin Hong San? I've heard of it. The two of you are experts on the heroic sword list. The one-eyed barbarian sword's face turned serious. May I ask why your sect has gathered so many disciples here? Lu Xiao asked. It's just for the sake of the safety of the mighty Sword Valley. The one-eyed barbarian sword said in a rough voice. A few days ago, the mighty Sword Valley was attacked by thieves, the Clear Sky Holy Robe was destroyed, and countless people from the mighty Sword Valley were killed or injured. For this reason, my sect master sent us to seal off this place and strictly watch over any spirit cultivator who wants to go to the mighty Sword Valley. In this hero's sword discourse, the Clear Sky Holy Robe will be the object of the sword discourse, and those thieves will definitely come again. Therefore, everyone who wants to go to the mighty Sword Valley must pass our test before they can move forward. If they're not willing to accept our test, they must be peeking at the holy robe." Hearing that, Lu Zhao's eyebrows twitched. "Oh, so that's how it is. Does the mighty Sword Valley Master know what your sect has done?" The one-eyed barbarian sword's expression changed slightly as he hesitated for a moment. "What's the difference between knowing and not knowing? This is for the sake of the mighty Sword Valley." Hearing that, Lu Xiao immediately understood. This was just man Lu Xia acting on his own. "Then what kind of test does your sect have?" The one-eyed barbarian's sword turned his head and signaled the people behind him with his eyes. Immediately, a disciple walked forward quickly and took out a porcelain bottle from the pouch at his waist. He poured out 2 pills from it and handed them to the 2 of them. "This time, you will definitely bring the parts of the clear sky holy robe to snatch the holy robe. Therefore, my sect master has refined this kind of perception pill. If the person who consumes this pill does not have any parts on him, he will not have any reaction, and once he is a part, he will die on the spot, revealing his true form. If the 2 of you dare to consume this pill and are fine, then you can pass. If you are not willing to consume it, then you can either leave or be killed by us." With that said, Lu Zhao's eyes slightly moved. This pill was pitch black and round, only the size of an eyeball. It gave off a strange smell, and it was unknown what it was refined from. "How do I know if this pill is poisonous? Although I, man Lu Xia, am not a big sect, I do not dare to poison people in broad daylight. This is an extremely despicable thing. If I were to harm your lives, wouldn't I, man Lu Xia, become enemies with the entire sword world? How will we stand in the sword world in the future? If you do not believe me, then leave. We will not force you." The one-eyed barbarian sword snorted. Hearing that, Lu Xiao felt that it made sense. If this pill was poisonous and he died under it, how could man Lu Xia be at ease? They shouldn't be that stupid. Immediately, Lu Xiao was about to swallow the pill. But just as he was about to make his move, a soft hand reached out from the side and gently took his pill. It was Qin Hong San. "Husband, let me feed you." "Qin Hong," San said gently. Lu Xiao was startled, but when he saw the flash of light in Qin Hong San's eyes, he understood something. He nodded his head, opened his mouth, and placed the pill into his mouth. "Swallow." Qin Hong San did not hesitate and placed the pill into Tan Tan's mouth. The 2 of them used the medicine and stood in place. The one-eyed barbarian sword carefully sized up the 2 of them. Only then did he wave his hand and let the 2 of them leave. When the others saw this, they all became suspicious. Seeing Lu Xiao and Lu Xiao leave, they also let down their guard and went over. After understanding the rules of the barbarian flowing sand people, many people were furious and refused sternly. For no reason. How could he carelessly eat the medicine given by others? However, if they did not accept the pill and refused to let them go, then they would be worried. They did not dare to offend man Lu Xia. People began to make their choice. Some people turned around and left, while others saw Lu Xiao and Lu Xiao swallow the pill and leave, so they did not suspect anything and took the pill. Suyin looked closer and glanced at the pill. He felt that this matter was more or less strange. "What? It's obvious that you guys don't want us to participate in the hero's discussion of the sword. That's why you guys deliberately did this." "That's right. You man Lu Xia are too much of a bully. I will definitely tell the world about this." Some people were filled with righteous indignation and shouted loudly. "If any of you are unconvinced, I, the one-eyed barbarian sword, am willing to accept the challenge." The one-eyed barbarian sword raised his toothed sword and snorted at these people. As soon as he said this, no one dared to shout anymore. What a joke! The one-eyed barbarian sword was an expert who had been famous for a long time. It was said that his swordsmanship was extremely close to the experts on the heroic sword list. How could he be his match? However, if he didn't eat the pill, he wouldn't be able to pass. There were nearly 1,000 experts from the barbarian flowing sand here. Su Yun heaved a sigh of relief. He received the pill from a disciple of the barbarian flowing sand and looked at it carefully. Suddenly, his tightly furrowed brows relaxed. Immediately, without saying a word, he swallowed the pill. You can go now. The one-eyed barbarian sword nodded and said to Su Yun. Su Yun cupped his fists without saying a word. He quickly passed through the crowd and rushed towards the mighty Sword Valley. Seeing that more and more people were heading towards the mighty Sword Valley, those who were still hesitating immediately became anxious. All of them did not care about anything else as they swallowed their pills and moved forward. For the sake of the clear sky, holy robe, these people's eyes were all red with anxiety. Even though most of the people here were not strong, under the temptation of treasures, even an ant would muster up the courage to fight for it. What drove them was not the so-called desire to improve, but the heart of greed. Chapter 7:10. After passing through the obstruction of the Sandman, Su Yun quickly rushed forward for a distance, then hurriedly stopped and sat cross-legged on the ground, meditating and circulating his energy. However, what surprised him was that on the two rocks in the distance, Lu Xiao and Qin Hong Fan, who had left earlier, were actually sitting cross-legged and recuperating. The two of them connected their palms and helped each other, activating the profound qi, causing their bodies to emit green smoke. It was extremely mystical. In fact, the pill given by the one-eyed barbarian sword was not a pill used to test the components, but a poison that was worthy of its name. However, the poison was weak and could not kill. It could even be said that there were no poisonous ingredients on the surface, and many people were unable to detect it. Once it was swallowed, it would immediately hide itself, and after a period of time, the medicinal effect would seep into every part of a person's body and would quickly paralyze all of a person's chi meridian. In other words, once the pill took effect, it would immediately turn a spirit cultivator into an ordinary person. Of course, that was only for existences with weak cultivations. For experts, they would not lose all of their cultivation in a short period of time, but it would still affect them. If the effects of the pill were to take effect during the sword discourse competition, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the end, the goal of the Sandman was still for the sake of the hero. As long as they gave this pill to everyone who went to the venerable Sword Valley, it would be equivalent to crippling one potential threat after another. Because it was just paralysis and would not die, the barbarian quicksand people would not bear much responsibility. At most, they would have a bad reputation, but if they could use this reputation to exchange for the clear sky holy robe, it would be worth it. However, the Sandman had underestimated the people of the world. Not everyone would fall for this trick. Su Yun heaved a sigh of relief, patted his robe, then stood up and continued to walk forward. All the poison in his body had been forced out. However, Lu Xiao and Qin Hong Fan were still recuperating. It seemed that it was good to have a strong Xian energy. Su Yun was pleased with himself. His footsteps quickened, his sword unsheathed and landed in the sky. He stepped on the sword sheath, transforming into a rainbow that pierced through the horizon. Whiz! The sound of something tearing through the air rang out. Lu Xiao and Qin Hong Fan, who were still recuperating, immediately opened their eyes and looked at the sky. Doesn't this person need to adjust his breathing? Looks like he's just an ordinary person. A hint of disdain appeared at the corner of Lu Xiao's mouth. You're wrong. Qin Hong shook his head. This person is powerful, much more powerful than me. LV Zhao's mouth stiffened. What do you mean? He took the poison later than us, but he had already used his power to force out all of the poison. If that's the case, then his profound strength must be deeper than ours. The poison has been forced out? How so fast? Perhaps he is relying on magic treasures. Lu Xiao was somewhat unconvinced. Qin Hong Fan remained silent. After a while, the smoke on the body stopped. They got up and continued on their way. After running for a few days, he finally arrived outside the mighty Sword Valley. Su Yun kept his sword and landed on the ground, looking into the distance. The mighty Sword Valley was located in the middle of two large mountains. On one side, it was surrounded by a green river. The mountains were filled with lush greenery, and the emerald trees and flowers covered the mountains and plains. It was extremely beautiful, and everywhere was filled with vitality. However, the flowers, grass, trees, mountains, and rivers here were not natural. They were all man-made. In the past, every blade of grass, tree, flower, and tree was a scenery that was pleasing to the eye. However, when there was a war, they would all become guards protecting the entire mighty Sword Valley. The swords of the mighty Sword Valley paid particular attention to nature and unity. Their sword techniques were myriad and their might was boundless. However, many of the flowers, plants, and trees had been destroyed. It must have something to do with the turmoil in the mighty Sword Valley. At this moment, there were already disciples of the mighty Sword Valley outside the valley, welcoming the heroes from all over the sword world. Regardless of whether they were big or small figures, they would all be warmly received. Fellow swordsmen, it's a pleasure to meet you. May I ask if you are here to participate in the Heroes Sword Discourse competition? If that's the case, please come in. A disciple of the mighty Sword Valley walked towards Su Yun, cupped his fists, and smiled. Thank you. Su Yun revealed a smile, and then, under the guidance of the disciple, he stepped into the mighty Sword Valley. The valley was already in a hubbub of voices. There were people everywhere along the way, but these people were of high and low status. The powerful people of the great sects and powers walked in the middle of the road, while the weak ones on the side gave way. As for the rogue cultivators, or those with low cultivation, they walked on the two sides of the road. Su Yun couldn't help but mutter. Since he was afraid of these people, why did he still come to the mighty Sword Valley? Wasn't he here to fight for treasures? After muttering to himself, he followed behind a powerhouse, which attracted a wave of disdain. Su Yun came at the right time. The Great Assembly would officially begin tomorrow at noon, and everyone was gathered at the side of the Sword Discourse Arena, waiting for the Great Assembly to begin. Su Yun was led to the side of the Sword Discourse Arena and found an empty place to sit down. When everyone arrived, other than those famous people who went to greet the Valley Master and the others, the rest of the nameless people were meditating by the side of the Sword Discourse Arena, preparing for the Great Assembly tomorrow. There were many experts of the Suicide Valley standing around the Sword Discourse Arena. They wore long swords and armor, standing like statues, looking very imposing. The Suicide Valley Master was an old man. His hair was white, and there were only a few strands of black hair. His face was full of wrinkles, and his body was thin. He wore a golden green robe. He didn't have a sword on him, and he gave off a harmless feeling. After the Valley Master met with those people, he left the Sword Discourse Arena and shook hands with the surrounding spirit cultivatoress. His attitude was very warm, and some people were flattered and excited. There were also some who thought themselves to be aloof and cold, but the Suicide Valley Master did not care at all. At this time, a disciple ran over from the entrance of the Sword Discourse Arena. Valley Master, the people from Cloud Heavenly Palace have arrived. Oh, hearing that, the Valley Master's eyebrows twitched, and he immediately walked out. The group left. Su Yun's expression did not change. He reached out to put on his hood, pulled on the brim of his hat, and buried his face in the haze. He never thought that even the Cloud Heavenly Palace would be alarmed by this hero's duel of the sword. He wondered who would be sent over this time. Su Yun sat in place for a moment, then saw a large group of people walking into the Sword Discourse Arena from the entrance. The majority of them were disciples of the Cloud Heavenly Palace. They were still wearing that dazzling Blade Master uniform. All of them had long swords on their bodies. The men were handsome, the women were beautiful, and they were extremely eye-catching around the Sword Discourse Arena. I never thought that the people from the Cloud Heavenly Palace would also come. This time it's going to be a good show. Look, isn't the leader the Sword Lord? Why did the Heavenly Palace let him participate in the hero's duel of the sword this time? The Sword Lord's strength is not weak. If we don't let him come to the Sword Discourse Arena, who else can come? That's true, but I wonder if the people from the sect of Dragon and Sword, who have always been at odds with the Cloud Heavenly Palace, will come. If they come, then there will be a good show to watch. Valley Master, the people from the sect of Dragon and Sword are here. Coincidentally, another shout came from the entrance. As the sound of this voice faded, the people who were whispering to each other were all stunned. The scene immediately became silent for a moment, and very quickly, the silence was broken by surprised voices. My mother, it really came as soon as I said it. The surrounding spirit cultivator all raised their heads and looked at the people from the Cloud Heavenly Palace with the mentality of watching a show. When the people of the Cloud Heavenly Palace heard the 3 words sect of dragon and sword, their faces tensed up. No one had a good expression on their faces, but the Sword Lord seemed to be very calm. The Valley Master also seemed to feel rather awkward. He smiled, cupped his fists towards the Sword Lord, and led his men down to receive the people from the sect of dragon and sword. Not long after, a group of men and women wearing thin, wide-sleeved robes walked into the sword discourse arena. These people were not dressed as extravagantly as the people from the Cloud Heavenly Palace. They were dressed very simply, regardless of whether it was men or women. They did not have many decorations on their bodies. Only a uniform disciple's robe and a long sword, that was all. The leader was a young woman. She was not good-looking, and her hair was very short. However, on the right side of her face, there was a silver-white dragon imprint. She looked around and naturally saw the people from the Cloud Heavenly Palace. However, she ignored them and directly greeted the leaders of the other sections. The group of people immediately responded. These people were chatting with each other, leaving the people of the Cloud Heavenly Palace to the side. This made the usually arrogant and proud people of the Cloud Heavenly Palace unhappy. People from the sect of Dragon and Sword, I never thought that you would come here today. Very good, very good. When the heroes discuss the sword later, we will also be able to properly ask for a few moves from you. Finally, on the side of the Cloud Heavenly Palace, someone could no longer hold it in and shouted out provocatively. What is it? Hasn't your Cloud Heavenly Palace lost enough? You still want to embarrass yourself here? Almost as soon as the people from the Cloud Heavenly Palace finished speaking, the people from the sect of Dragon and Sword retorted. It seemed like the people from the sect of Dragon and Sword had been enduring it all this time. What did you say? The person who spoke from the Cloud Heavenly Palace immediately blushed as he stood up and shouted. Do you want us to repeat ourselves? If you're not convinced, I am willing to accept your challenge. Don't try to be arrogant. If you want to fight, then let's fight. With that, the disciple of the sect of Dragon and Sword immediately pulled out his sword, looking like he was about to make a move. He was truly a warmonger, and the people of the Cloud Heavenly Palace were not cowards either. In almost an instant, all of them brandished their swords. When the rest of the people from the sect of Dragon and Sword saw this scene, how could they just stand by and watch? They all drew their swords as well. The two sides clashed with their swords, and the scene immediately became tense. The surrounding spirit cultivators all stood up and looked over. Everyone's gaze was attracted over. The mighty Sword Valley Lord naturally would not just stand by the side and watch. He hurriedly walked to the center of the two groups of people and shouted, Everyone, please calm down. Calm down. This time, I'm holding a Heroes Sword Discourse Conference. If you have any grudges, please leave the valley to settle it. But here, I hope that everyone can give me some face and temporarily put away their weapons, okay? Li Xiang, put away your sword. At this moment, the Sword Lord spoke. When the people of Cloud Heavenly Palace heard this, they had no choice but to withdraw their swords. Seeing that, the people from a sect of Dragon and Sword did not wish to make a big deal out of this, so they kept their swords. Both sides glared at each other. The atmosphere was extremely tense. The mighty Sword Valley Lord knew that these were two explosives and could not be placed together. He immediately began to pacify them. Not long later, the two sides were taken away by their respective leaders. The two groups of people sat in the north and south. Although they were far apart, the atmosphere was still driven by them. Chapter 7:11. With so many forces gathered in one place, there were naturally endless disputes. Although everyone came here for the same reason, everyone came in a hurry and did not expect that their enemies would also gather here. When enemies met, their eyes would turn red, and this enemy had also become their competitor. How could they not cause trouble? However, it was a good thing that the venerable Sword Valley was famous. No matter who caused trouble, they would not dare to cause a ruckus, and would have to look at their master's expression. In the end, this treasure was still in the hands of its master, unless they didn't want it anymore. More and more people arrived at the venerable Sword Valley. The sects had the most people, and rogue cultivators only occupied a quarter of the people. Time slowly passed, and the preparations for the mighty sword sect were almost done. At this moment, The vicinity of the gigantic sword discourse arena was already densely packed with people, almost to the point where there was no room for anyone to stand. Even the area beside Su Yun was occupied by the crowd. The blazing sun rose into the sky. The time had come. Thus, in this oppressive atmosphere, the first hero's sword discourse assembly held by the mighty Sword Valley, using the clear sky holy robe as a lure, began. The scene was bustling with noise and excitement. People of all sizes from various sects and clans had arrived. Although the clear sky holy robe's power had been greatly reduced due to its incomplete parts, it was still a rare treasure to the crowd. At noon, the sword world's scorching sun was especially dazzling, and the entire land was illuminated with a golden light. Su Yun opened his eyes and looked at the sword discourse arena. The venerable Sword Valley's Valley Lord, accompanied by 2 disciples, walked up the sword discourse arena. He glanced at the scene, then turned his head and nodded to the person beside him. The disciple beside him understood and shouted down. Immediately, a person rushed up from below, and that person pressed a spar in front of the Valley Lord's feet. The spar fell to the ground and released a dense spatial aura. This aura spread out from the sword discourse arena and flew into the sky. It was unknown where it extended to, as if it was pulling something. Very quickly, the spatial aura was retracted and disappeared into the spar. That person immediately took down the spar and left the stage. Many of the surrounding people did not understand what was going on. Suddenly, a rumbling sound came from the sky. Everyone was shocked. They looked up and saw a golden statue falling from the sky, directly smashing into the center of the sword discourse arena. Dong! The statue fell to the ground, and the sword platform shook. More than 10,000 pairs of eyes fell on the statue. They saw that the shining statue was wearing an especially imposing golden armor. Clear sky, holy robe. Everyone's heart skipped a beat at the same time. The saint robe was magnificent, but it didn't lose its majesty. Its surface rippled with a supreme aura, and it actually gave people a strange feeling of worship. What kind of mystical holy garment was this? It was as thin as a light muslin and lightly stuck to the statue. It was constructed from golden threads, as thin as hair. However, these golden threads did not have the cliché of gold. Instead, they inherited the dazzling brilliance of gold. There were 2 arrays on the front and back of the holy garment. One array was in the shape of a tiger spreading its wings, while the other array was in the shape of an eagle with sharp teeth. It was incomparably imposing. However, what caught people's attention was that there was a very obvious groove on the chest area of the holy garment. The groove was already empty, as if there was something similar to a gemstone there. Su Yun looked at the groove, and his heart immediately became excited. From the looks of it, it seems to match the size of the divine stone. It seems like there's no mistake. That divine stone is the stone on the clear sky holy robe. The Valley Master swept his gaze across the crowd, and a faint smile appeared on his face. He was very satisfied with everyone's expectant expressions. Everyone, this is the Valley's treasure, the clear sky holy robe. As his voice spread out, the surroundings of the sword discourse arena were in an uproar. Is this the clear sky holy robe? It really is a divine object, a treasure. Even if I look at it from afar, I can still feel how extraordinary it is. If such a treasure was in my hands, how great would that be? Such a divine object shouldn't appear in the sword world, right? This time, the hero's duel of the sword is going to be interesting. This treasure must be mine. Noises rose and fell, rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling again. The Sword Lord and Long Guangzhong of the Dragon and Sword Sect both stood up, staring at the saint robe with burning eyes. There was no one who did not desire it, no one who did not pay attention to it. Obtaining this saint robe was equivalent to forcefully raising one's cultivation by several times. Su Yun looked at the restless crowd, and almost everyone's faces were filled with passion and excitement. It could be said that even Su Yun himself was extremely excited and wished that he could immediately rush up to the sword discourse arena, snatch the clothes, and leave. The Sword Lord looked at Long Guangzhong of the Dragon and Sword Sect, then cupped his fist towards the Valley Master and said, "The Clear Sky Holy Robe is a sacred artifact passed down by the Clear Sky Emperor. Such a treasure must belong to a virtuous person, but I wonder who the Valley Master plans to give it to?" "I can't answer that question." The Valley Master chuckled and said, "Because the purpose of this Sword Discourse Conference is to make friends with the sword, to discuss the world with the sword, and whoever has outstanding sword skills and outstanding sword intent will obtain the position of Swordmaster. Then, whoever will obtain the Clear Sky Holy Robe." These words were like a spark that had fallen into dry firewood, instantly igniting the entire sword discourse arena. Everyone shouted loudly, laughing and chatting, their fighting spirit exploding, their blood boiling. They wished they could immediately rush up to the sword discourse arena to carry out the sword discourse arena. Long Guangzhong was actually even more impatient than the sword sovereign. He directly opened his mouth and said loudly, "Valley Master, we have already said this much. I think it would be better not to waste everyone's time. Just say it. This is the sword discourse arena. How should we discuss the sword?" "That's right, Valley Master. Let's hurry up and talk about the rules. We can't wait any longer." The people below began to clamor and shout loudly. All right. Everyone calm down, calm down." The Valley Master chuckled and said, "The rules of this sword discourse arena are very simple. It will be carried out in a duel. As the sword master, his sword techniques must be outstanding. I think everyone will agree to this method, right?" "Of course I agree. We have no objections." A few voices immediately echoed from below. The Valley Master nodded and clapped his hands. In an instant, a circle of water-blue chi cover rose up around the sword discourse arena. These chi covers were like a waterfall, tightly surrounding the sword discourse arena. The surging profound energy rippled within the chi cover, and when the profound energy floated into the chi cover, it was immediately absorbed completely. "Everyone, it is my honor to be able to come to my mighty Sword Valley. My mighty Sword Valley is also honored by your presence." The head of the mighty Sword Valley was neither slow nor slow as he said with a smile, "There is no other purpose for this hero's sword discourse arena. It is all because of this Clear Sky Holy Robe. Everyone should have heard that my mighty Sword Valley was attacked a few days ago. To be honest, ever since my mighty Sword Valley obtained the Clear Sky Holy Robe, I have been immersed in this peeping every single day and night, and there has not been a single day that I have not been on guard and have been afraid. However, this time, in order to resist the invasion of a shameless person, my son has even lost his life. I am extremely grieved and do not have much reluctance towards this saint robe, but people are guilty, clothes are innocent. After all, this is a treasure passed down by the Clear Sky Great Emperor. Even if I do not need it, there are still countless heroes who need it, therefore. I boldly organize this hero's sword discourse arena. The rules of the sword are based on the rules of the Sword World's duel. If one side dies, the other side wins and continues to the next round of challenges. When everyone is convinced and no one dares to fight, the Saint Robe will belong to him." The Valley Master bellowed, then took a few steps back and scanned the crowd. "Then please begin. Who will go up on stage first and challenge the various heroes?" As soon as he said this, the crowd immediately boiled over. As soon as the Valley Master finished speaking, someone could no longer hold it in. "I think I should go first and ask for advice from the various heroes." A man wearing silver armor was the first to jump onto the stage, holding his sword and shouting. This person was at the 6th stage of the Sky Spirit Master and could be considered an expert, but at the scene, there were too many people who were stronger than the 6th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. Before this person could even stand firm on the stage, a flying sword flew over from below the stage, aiming straight for his heart. The man hurriedly blocked, and with a clang, the flying sword was knocked away. Then, a figure rushed up from below the stage, grabbed onto the flying sword, and began to attack crazily. The two of them fought. Clang, clang, clang. The sounds continued, and the profound chi overflowed in all directions. The sword discourse arena was very big, but the two of them were nimble and swift, sometimes scurrying to the west, sometimes scurrying to the east, causing the spectators to be dazzled. When the two of them used their profound skill, the chaotic sword chi immediately smashed everywhere, flying everywhere. A large amount of sword chi struck the layer of water blue chi cover surrounding the sword discourse arena and was completely absorbed by the chi cover. Seeing this, everyone instantly understood the meaning of the chi cover. If not for this barrier, such a small place would not have been enough for the spirit cultivator to fight. The battle ended very quickly, with the death of one person. Neither side held back, and both sides killed each other with an attitude of not stopping until one side died. There was no pity, much less sympathy. When one of them had his blood splattered all over the stage, there was another commotion below the sword discourse arena. Your sword skill is only SOSO. In my opinion, you are just a clown. Have a taste of the Three Suns Sword Sovereign's power. The shouts exploded, and another person rushed onto the stage. The battle became more and more intense. Su Yun leaned on the wall of the valley, his gaze fixed on the battle on the sword discourse arena. Although some people's battles were unsightly, most of the sword world's battles were worth watching. The people of the sword world all used the sword as their martial arts and spent their entire lives studying sword techniques. Their understanding of the sword definitely surpassed any realm in the myriad heavens realm and could not be underestimated. To be able to witness so many sword elites fighting, Su Yun felt that this trip to the sword world was not in vain. I wonder what kind of surprise the famous sword sects in the sword world, the Dragon Sword sect, will bring me. Su Yun's gaze swept across Long Guangzhong and the others in the distance, his heart filled with excitement as he looked at them with anticipation. Chapter 712. Bang! A muffled sound exploded on the sword discourse arena. A figure rolled a few times on the sword discourse arena. His hair was disheveled, and he looked extremely miserable. His face was covered in blood, and sword scars covered his entire body. Before he could even crawl up, a sharp sword pierced through his head, straight into his throat, and pierced through his body. Tragic death. Another expert swordsman had died tragically. However, facing such a cruel scene, regardless of whether it was men or women, none of them felt fear. Instead, they became even more excited. The sword chi, blood chi, and killing intent on the stage were like the most intense aphrodisiacs, stimulating the hormones in their bodies, stimulating their blood, and seducing their fighting spirit. Everyone shouted loudly. The swords on their backs and waists trembled, and the eyes of some of the swordsmen even turned red. Good kill. Good kill. Continue to kill. That was a beautiful sword strike. Everyone shouted at the top of their lungs. What kind of crazy group of people were they? After one person was killed, another person impatiently rushed onto the stage and engaged in a fierce battle with the other person. The sword images occupied the entire sword discourse arena. Everyone was dazzled, and their gazes followed the two swords that were constantly colliding. One of them held a sword in one hand, while the other hand activated the profound chi. His feet were close to the ground, and he continuously rotated his body, and every time his body rotated, his sword would also dance out, and the sword chi attached to the sword would be like rain, crashing towards his opponent. Facing such a concentrated attack, ordinary people would usually choose to dodge. But as long as the opponent dodged, they would immediately be hit by his move. The profound chi that he had accumulated for a long time would instantly release a long, profound chi wall. It was fast and vicious, and when people dodged, they would not be able to defend, and the profound chi was especially sharp, directly cutting the opponent apart. As soon as this person went up on stage, he used this move to kill two people. The sword discourse arena was dyed red with blood, and broken corpses scattered everywhere. Su Yun stared intently. Almost every movement and sword technique of the people fighting on the stage was clearly seen by him. The two of them fought in a chaotic manner, but in Su Yun's eyes, it was extremely slow. If he were to use these sword techniques, he might be able to be faster. Of course, he was not only focused on the sword moves, but also on the activation of the profound chi and the distribution of energy when he attacked. This was extremely important in a duel between swordsmen. This Mo Luo River sword really lives up to its reputation. One hand and one sword. The hand is the sword, and the sword is the hand. One attack, one defense. It's simply impossible to guard against. That's right, especially that left hand of his. It's incomparably hard and can actually be used as a sword. When fighting with an opponent, he can directly use his hand as a sword when the opponent is unprepared to attack. Unless it's a dual martial artist, who can guard against it. Even someone skilled in dual martial arts might not be able to defend against it. Who would be wary of a bare hand? Not bad. The people at the side discussed spiritedly. Su Yun nodded as he listened. Today, Su Yun's understanding of the sword could be said to have expanded to a whole new world. The knowledge of the people here regarding the sword had completely surpassed the people of the other realms by many times. Perhaps they were not the strongest, but their sword skills were the most novel and strange. The battle continued. Everyone was excited for the battle on the sword discourse arena. Only the two of them remained unmoved, as steady as a mountain. One was Long Guangzhong of the Dragon Sword sect, and the other was the sword sovereign of the Cloud Heavenly Palace. Their eyes were half open as they quietly watched the battle. There was no joy or sorrow on their faces, nor were there any waves. They were like the water of a calm lake. Perhaps in their eyes, the battles of the people in front of them were nothing more than children playing house and were not of much interest. The battle lasted for an entire day. When the corpses piled up on the sword discourse arena, the mighty Sword Valley Lord finally stood up and stopped the competition. If he didn't clean it up, the sword discourse arena would be completely filled with corpses. The competition rested for 6 hours, allowing the people of the mighty Sword Valley to clean up the battlefield. Although they had lost a lot of people in the competition, no one felt that it was cruel or pitiful. After all, their souls had not been destroyed by the other party. Their bodies had been destroyed, and only their cultivation had been crippled. Furthermore, the people of the sword world were very indifferent to life and death. In their hearts, only duels were supreme. And on this day, the people of the Cloud Heavenly Palace and the Dragon Sword sect did not send anyone up, causing many people who had been waiting for the battle between the two great sects to be extremely disappointed. During the break, most of the people were talking about the battle, while Su Yun closed his eyes and thought about the process of those people fighting. After an unknown period of time, a deep bell sound once again rippled across the sword discourse arena. Everyone looked up and saw the Valley Master stand up once again and land on the sword discourse arena. He called out, "The sword discourse continues." As his voice fell, it once again ignited the entire mighty Sword Valley. The shouts continued to fly. The person who won the previous match immediately jumped onto the stage and waved his sword. Two swordsmen immediately rushed up from below. Looking at the two of them fighting to be the first, it seemed as if they both wanted to take the lead. However, before the two of them could even get on stage, a golden sword chi pierced through their bodies. Fresh blood floated to the edge of the sword discourse arena, and then two ice-cold corpses landed at the side of the sword discourse arena. Looking closely, the person who attacked was actually someone from the Dragon Sword sect. The scene immediately went into an uproar. Su Yun opened his eyes wide and looked at the disciple of the Dragon Sword sect who was rushing up the stage. That sword chi just now was especially sharp and could be said to be on par with the Spirit Lord chi. It was unknown how many times stronger it was than the Swift Wind Spirit chi. Is this the special, profound chi of the Dragon Sword sect? Su Yun thought. The moment the disciple of the Dragon Sword sect, Li Mu, rushed onto the stage, he immediately raised his sword and slashed. His sword opened and closed, quickly dancing. The golden, profound chi danced on the ice-cold blade, like an incomparably charming golden dragon pouncing on his opponent. The opponent hurriedly raised his sword to meet the attack. The sword shadows overlapped, and the sword dance was extremely fast, but it couldn't even break through the golden sword chi. He was forced to retreat step by step, and in an instant, the opponent gained the upper hand. Exclamations could be heard incessantly. Is this the Dragon Sword chi of the Dragon Sword sect? So powerful! Everyone sighed. The disciple of the Dragon Sword sect shouted loudly. The dragon on the sword seemed to roar angrily. The sharp sword trembled violently, and the sound of the sword crying filled the sky. A ray of golden light shattered the profound chi on the spirit cultivator's sword and pierced through his chest with lightning speed. That person's body trembled, and his attacks suddenly stopped. He froze on the spot. Following that, Li Mu flew up and slashed down. The sharp sword slashed from his head to his crotch. His entire body was cut in half, and he died on the spot. A complete victory. Easily killed. The eyes of everyone below the stage lit up. They were completely convinced by the sword skills of the Dragon Sword sect. Li Mu retracted his sword. He did not even look at the opponent behind him. His gaze swept across the people below the sword discourse arena, and his eyes finally landed on the Cloud Heavenly Palace. Provocation. A naked provocation. Li Mu was already declaring war on the Cloud Heavenly Palace. Could it be that the grudge between the Cloud Heavenly Palace and the Dragon Sword sect was about to play out on the sword discourse arena? Seeing Li Mu's attitude, the people of the Cloud Heavenly Palace were naturally furious, and immediately, there were people who wanted to rush out and fight with him on the sword discourse arena. However, the Sword Lord gently raised his arm and said indifferently, "Don't be impatient, just let him be." As the sound of his voice faded, the surrounding people were stunned. He never thought that the Sword Lord would choose to avoid the battle at this time. What is it? Are all the people of the Cloud Heavenly Palace cowards? Immediately, someone could not bear to watch any longer and shouted out loudly. Upon closer inspection, the person who spoke was someone from the sect of Dragon and Sword. "What did you say?" The people from the Cloud Heavenly Palace were enraged. "Didn't you hear what I said clearly? Do I need to repeat myself? Coward! If you have the ability, go up and fight with our senior brother Li Mu for 300 rounds. You Zhang Fei, don't say any more, just let them." The Sword Lord shouted again. When the people of Cloud Heavenly Palace heard this, they could only suppress their anger and shut their mouths. The actions of the Cloud Heavenly Palace naturally caused a burst of ridicule from the people of the sect of Dragon and Sword. The enmity between the two sects had lasted for a long time, and the surrounding people were already used to it. However, everyone was still looking forward to the fight between the people of the sect of Dragon and Sword. Since the Cloud Heavenly Palace avoided the battle, the others could only go up the stage to challenge him. However, Li Mu's absolute strength had scared many people, and some people who thought that they could not contend against him had already decided to give up on this year's sword discourse competition. They were not willing to destroy their bodies and lose their cultivation for the sake of the clear sky holy robe. It was not worth it, and they might not be able to obtain the clear sky holy robe if they went up. After waiting for a long time, someone finally went up to fight. However, Li Mu's dense and powerful dragon sword chi was not something an ordinary person could contend against. That person had only gone up the stage for a few dozen breaths before his head was chopped off and he died. After that, the surroundings of the sword discourse arena became deathly silent. Li Mu held onto his sword that was covered in blood and stood beside the statue, coldly staring at the people below. His eyes were filled with arrogance and disdain. "Is no one going up the stage to challenge me?" Seeing that there was no movement from below the stage, a trace of disappointment flashed across the Valley Master's eyes as he stood up and shouted. However, there was no sign of anyone coming up. When Li Mu saw this scene, the killing intent in his eyes immediately dissipated by 30%. The corner of his mouth curled up as he let out a low and complacent laugh. "Lord Sword Lord, the people of Cloud Heavenly Palace could no longer hold back their anger. Let him be. Don't be rash." The Sword Lord was still calm and indifferent as he spoke. "But could it be that we have to watch as the people from the sect of Dragon and Sword take away the clear sky holy robe?" Zhang Fei said hatefully. "Take it away." The Sword Lord revealed a disdainful smile. "They can't take it away. All of you just need to calm down and watch. There are so many people gathered here, and there are countless capable people. No matter what, it won't be his turn to take the treasure." As soon as he said this, the people of Cloud Heavenly Palace calmed down a little. Since the Sword Lord was not in a hurry, it was useless for them, as disciples, to be impatient. They could only watch. Crash! At this moment, a figure finally appeared from below. This person was dressed in a long robe and held a desolator in his hand. His figure was elegant as he landed directly on the sword discourse arena. Everyone turned to look. Is that Liu Xiao, who is ranked 17th on the heroic sword list? The crowd burst into an uproar. The expert of the heroic sword list had finally made his move. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.